pass it off, and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete that. He's crazy
As I
stuff.
said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Tin Top Racing is no stranger to Spa-Francorchamps. The 1,000 kilometers of Spa, the 24 hours of Spa, sports cars have made their presence known here for a long time. So it feels fitting that today CMS returns to this fabled circuit. Who will conquer its picturesque terrain? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the GTE class is Samuel Ryman. Next to him, covering the GT3 and GTC classes, is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, if you discount the behemoths of Le Mans and Nürburgring, Spa is the longest track on iRacing. This has got to be quite an experience racing here.
Absolutely it is, Joe. It's a very old circuit. I mean, it's been revised, but even with the revisions, it still has the things that make the popular road courses stand out. Everyone knows all of these turn names if you're a racing driver, and there's 19 of them in total, although the numbers differ. You see we got 20 there on our graphic. It's 4.3 miles, that's 7 kilometers long, and we're going to be racing here for 100 minutes today. That's 1 hour and 40 minutes. And you see it all here from the overhead shot. We've got chicanes, we've got long straights, we've got turns where you have to hold your breath, turns where you're going to be right on the ragged edge in these machines. And the machines you see out there on track right now are the Porsches as they are starting GTC qualifying. Before we get up to speed with that though, let's give you a lap of this circuit with our GSRC lap guide.
Alright, Kevin Brown is behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Spa. The very first corner is the nefarious La Source hairpin. Turn 1 pileups are common here, so drivers will need their heads on a swivel. 3 and sometimes even 4 wide can happen as everyone jockeys for position. As you exit, getting the power down is going to be critical due to the combination of the downhill and the long acceleration zone. Heading by the old pits, you gotta hug that wall to the right and set up for Eau Rouge. Then hold your breath and keep your foot down as you try to straighten this baby out. Guys who push wide at Rodillon are going to wind up with a slowdown penalty, and that is going to hurt as everyone blows by them along the Kemmel Straight. Now we switch to an uphill climb to the highest point on the circuit. The Lacombe chicane coming up will be one of your best passing opportunities, though it is possible to defend from the outside. You can expect guys to pass up an easy overtake into La Source and wait to get somebody here. As you switch back and forth, make sure you set up for Malmedy to keep anybody from getting a run on you toward Ravage. Now it's all downhill from here. Literally. We've got a steep plunge into the braking zone and all the way around this 180-degree corner. You're likely to experience understeer, but before you know it, it's time to get to the right and flick it through no-name corner. Now we set it up for Pouan. With the grip of these cars, there's just a little braking and then holding on as the car tries to slide wide into that paved runoff. As soon as you feel you've got the line, time to ease onto that right pedal and accelerate the rest of the way around this very fast corner. Careful how wide you drift on the exit though, with the slippery AstroTurf right beside the curb. Get back to the left, and now we've got Fagnes. Make sure and hug the inside on that right-hander to give yourself the best launch towards Stavolo. Once again, be wary of that AstroTurf. One more switchback, and it's a pretty straightforward 90-degree corner for this first part. But the real important thing is the next right-hander. We only have to lift a little, but wait too long and you'll lose time hand over fist down the backstretch. You've got some mild little turns, but once again, there's no lifting all the way. Even as you come up to Blanchiment, the grip of this car lets you stay in it easily. Just carry as much of your momentum as you can and then drift back to the left and spot your brake marker for the bus stop. This is probably your next best chance to get beside another car in the braking zone. I've seen passes made both inside and outside, so pick your poison and hold firm. There's even a possibility of pulling a switchback if you time it right. But as we pull back to the main straight, we've now finished a lap around Spa. Quite an extensive lap around this long course, this hilly course. As you can see, we are watching the end of the GTC qualifying. This is the final minute right now. Bart Workman leads the times in that GTC class, Sean. Although Jay Dargard, excuse me, is trying to keep him honest. He's got 3/10 to make up. I'm not sure, unless he gets a phenomenal lap, that he can do anything with that.
Well, Joe, they've only got a minute left. They just made the call. They got a minute left. So I think this is going to be the final lap for them to get around here. Bart working on that now. Honestly, Bart's on his way to Blanchimont now. Jay Dargett still has a chance. They both completed 2 laps, but Workman sits up top with a 2-minute 24.9 second lap. And Jay is going to have to do a little bit better than that. He was 2 minutes 25.2.
And he
I don't know if he's going to have the
there.
last.
Yeah, he doesn't improve there, Sean, and now he spins it. I think that may have been intentional there, because he just crossed the line pretty much right when the 15-minute mark fell. So, like you mentioned, it looks like Bart Workman will be on the pole in GTC, although we've got some cars finishing up their laps here still.
Anthony James, I think, is going to be able to get one more lap, and I think Ralph Kemmerer is the driver that just popped onto my timing and scoring screen, who finally got himself a lap in. As you mentioned, I believe Bart Workman improving by about 2/10 to extend the gap to nearly half a second over second place in qualifying. Bart certainly looks to have the pace out here on a lone lap, but can he do it over the course of that hour and 40-minute race? That's the question. We watch Anthony James come around Stavolo. He's currently 7th in his class, second to last of our 8 Porsches out there today. Let's see if he can improve this.
And as you mentioned at the top of the show, Joe, this being one of the longer road courses, these drivers don't have a lot of laps, really. They don't have a lot of time to get in that many laps during this qualifying session. All it takes is one mistake, which is very easy to do around this 19-turn course, as we see Anthony James come in, and your lap won't count.
Yeah, he called it off.
He went wide at Blanchimont, and unfortunately that 1X meant that did not count. As you mentioned, only 3 to 2 laps that we're seeing most cars able to complete in their allotted qualifying time.
Look, Joe, our camera guy exists. We always mention him at the top of each show. Here he is, people.
He's not just a photo. He actually is out there. There's our good old Dougie Beard racing out there today in the GT3 class for the 49 Motorsports team. So, as I was about to say, GT3 class is out on course, and since they've got to get their warm-up lap and their first lap in, that gives us some time to go over the championship standings. I believe we'll be starting with GTC. Yeah, here we go. We've got the GTCs up. So Bart Workman currently leading the way with a 7-point lead over Scott Johnson. Paul Hamilton just 4 points back from Scott in that third position. Ralph Kemmerer following up 3 points back in fourth. For a privateer not running with a team this time around. And of course, Jay Dargert sitting in fifth. Qualifying a little bit better than that today. Let's see if he can improve his position as we go to the GT3s, and I believe, Sean, you are covering their class?
You got it, buddy. Dexter Castro sits alone at the top right now. After one round, 31 points, and then Luis Mercado, second. Drew Lidke sitting back there with 20 points. And third, Tim Collier, 17 points there in fourth. And Albert Estevez, 16 points in fifth. Still early days. Sam, what's it looking like in GT?
Yeah, here we go. Now we get to the fastest class of the series, and these are the drivers you will see qualifying at the end of the session, being led by Paul Darlin over Humberto Roca, Dino Topic, Mike Griffith and Jeffrey Ooms. However, the case is for all 3 of these classes, and also the team championship about to come up, but this is all only after one race, so still a lot of this can change, Joe.
Very much so. And speaking of the team's championship, we should explain how they are scoring the teams, because the teams can have as many drivers as they want out there. However, they can only score their top 3 finishers, and of that, they can only have 2 finishers that score in a single class, and that's how they do the team's championship. Now, if we could pull the team's championship graphic up here, if we've got one. Actually, never mind. I believe we did not prepare one for today, so excuse me for that. Let's go over to the GT3 qualifying out there today. As you can see, they've got the Mercedes running, They've got the BMW running, and let me double check to see what our third car is in this series.
Oh, that's it. The Mercedes. It's the Mercedes and the BMW. Jeff.
That's right. With 3 different classes, I guess they can only do 2 and 1. So, very similar cars in the way that they tend to behave.
Yeah, first lap's just completed. Dougie Beard runs a 2:18.9. His teammate, 49 Motorsports teammate Dexter Castro was right behind him, but I guess he must have had an off during his lap because his time didn't clock in.
He did, Sam. Very, very good to pick that up. It's Drew Lidke that actually comes by, and he does register a lap just about a second off there of Dougie Beard. Tim Collier just comes across with a pretty good lap. About 2/10 off there from Dougie.
And on screen, we actually saw Dexter pull off the course as he came up Eau Rouge. He must have made a mistake early in the lap and decided to just start another one, although that would still cost him time on the warm-up. I'm not entirely sure why he pulled off.
Yeah, like you say, Joe, there's not a whole lot of time for these drivers to get their laps in, even if they go flawlessly. I don't know. He's really gonna have to
under the
pedal it.
gun.
It is a long race, and I mean there are only 6 cars in the GT3 class, and I think if maybe a little frustration at himself might have just said, you know what, I'm good, and decided to take the time away before the race starts.
Well, no, he's gotten back out on course from what I saw on screen. So he's out there trying. Just an unusual call.
You mentioned that, Sean, about only 6 drivers being in their class. However, the fact of the matter is they're still going to have their work cut out for them no matter how many cars are in your class, because the traffic, gaps between the classes aren't that massive. You've got the GTCs, the Porsche, the GT3s, these Mercedes and BMWs, and then the GTEs, which we'll see shortly, the Ferraris and the Fords. Granted, GTEs are faster than GT3s, which are faster than GTCs, but not that much. So even when you have a 6-car class, you're still going to have to deal with the fast guys in the class behind you and the slow cars in the class in front of you.
Currently, the slowest qualifying GT3 is about 4 seconds faster than the fastest qualifying GTC car. They will have enough of a gap that they should be able to stretch away from each other, barring any major mistakes.
Spa, definitely a good course to get away from competitors. Joe, of course, the Kemmel Straight, that trip up through Eau Rouge and Rédillon, everybody handles that a little bit differently. The cars definitely handle it differently, these different classes. The way that BMW gets through there as opposed to the way a Mercedes gets through there is totally different, and separating from the classes, it's even more extreme. The GTE cars, your brand new Ford GTs and the Ferraris, they get through that section totally different as well, and it's almost just a slight lift as opposed to actually downshifting and slowing the car down. So the closing rate going to be very, very fast through there, and it's going to be a trouble spot when traffic starts to come through for sure. And with a 100-minute race, we will definitely see the faster classes catch the slower ones and have to work through that throughout the race.
Interestingly, I did not see anybody improve that time by of the cars that have put a time in. Now, Kenneth Rodriguez and Dexter Castro are the only cars that have not managed to get a lap in, and Kenneth just took a tow back to the pits, so he is absolutely not going to have the time to come around and get a lap in. Question is, can Dexter Castro? I believe he should be on his flying lap now.
He is. It's been a clean lap so far. I've been watching him since he took the start of his lap, and now you see he's working his way through Pouhon pretty much at the halfway point. Not really going to have any indication about how fast this lap time of his is going to be, other than the fact he was the fastest GT3 in practice, and his teammate currently, Dougie Beard, has the fastest time in GT3 qualifying. So let's see if he can get up there and topple his teammate off the top spot, because the GTEs will be taken to the track momentarily.
They've just been given the 1 minute remaining warning, so hopefully you're close to be able to finish your lap so that you can get one more in as Dougie actually goes wide. We didn't see it on screen. We're with Dexter Castro to watch and see what kind of lap he can get as he's just about to finish his. Coming up to the bus stop, has to make this nice and clean. He can get one more in if this one does not count and he got a 1X. But as he comes across the line, let's see what this gets scored as. Oh, and he does top it by 0.2 over Dougie Beard.
Oh, what a run by Dexter Castro.
That will certainly make him happy. Tim Collier just completed a lap behind him, but it did not improve. Drew Lidke is able to get one more lap in. He's just crossed the line, gone up through Eau Rouge, and is climbing the Kemmel Straight himself now. And with that, they have released the GTE class. These drivers that are still out here, like Drew Lidke, are simply going to be completing their flying lap.
Castro again has a chance to get another flying lap in here. He could go a little bit better.
It'll be interesting seeing if they actually let them though, Sean, though, because the GTEs have been let out right behind the tail end of the GT3s here, so I almost wonder if they'll tell them to come in at the end of this lap.
We'll have to watch and see. If you're just joining us, you're watching the Ricmotech.com challenge. And look at that, Dougie Beard actually is pulling off and not going to complete this lap. Tim Collier, is that the GTE cars behind him actually that I just saw a flash of on the screen?
Yes, they're right behind, which is why I have a feeling Collier and all them are going to be told to get off the track, because Humberto Roca, the fastest driver in practice, is leading that GTE train.
They've been sitting and waiting patiently at the end of the pit lane for quite a while. They want to get going. Not interested in slowing down, even though this is a warm-up lap and is not going to count for time.
Well, one of the best ways to get heat in your tyres is to pedal it.
Absolutely. Let's see what they do with Tim Collier here, who's just about to be gobbled up by this Ford GT.
Like you say, the good news is that they're on their out laps, so they can back off a little bit, let him filter into the pits, and then they'll have a clean run on the front straight.
Dexter Castro is just finishing his second time lap. If this one counts and if he improves it, we wait to see. He does by about a 1/10, extending the gap over Dougie Beard.
And Collier stays out as well. Well, I guess they're allowing that because Castro, of course, one of the... and now he pulls off.
Yeah, I think he managed to just sneak it in since he was still ahead of them and really didn't intrude on anybody out there.
And he had his best lap, so for whatever it's worth, you know.
Well, this is admittedly a bit of a strange track for this type of qualifying, since that start-finish line is so early on the pit lane that by the time you come by the pit exit where these cars are coming out, you could be 15 seconds into your lap.
Yeah, it's just the way the timing worked out. But let's have a look at some of these drivers in the GTE class that are now up on track, Joe, because these are the fastest cars. These are the ones we're going to see at the front of the field today. And as we mentioned, Paul Darling is leading the championship. That means he got the best result in the season opener. Humberto Roca, though, was fastest in practice and leading the train around in qualifying here. A couple other names we recognise from other series. Dino Topic is out there, and also Julie Redman, a driver we haven't seen for a while. She's out there in the Golf livery number 2.
She was very popular with Richard Losper when he used to call this series some time ago. Good to see Julie back out and racing again. I understand she had to take a short break from last we talked to her, but she seems to be out and competing once more. Now, no surprise that this is one of the biggest fields that we have out here, as this is the newest pair of cars that iRacing has released. It is being used in this series, and it's the fastest class, which, Sean, that's a recipe for getting a lot of drivers on board. Yeah,
it certainly is. And, well, like you said, they're both very, very popular right now. We've seen that in several other multi-class events that we've covered. It seems to be the go-to right now. Both are very, very good cars. They're pretty balanced. I'd say maybe the BOP a little bit more favor the the Ferrari just a hair, but the Ford is a very, very good, reliable, durable car. It certainly has the raw, naked horsepower you need here at a track like Spa. Again, the Kemmel Straight, so much can be achieved on that straightaway, and that's a very, very sleek car. That's a nice little hole in the air. You get a little help from your friends. You're bound to make up ground in the old Ford GT there.
Well, after an initial batch of cars getting their times in on that first lap, Humberto Roca tops it by 0.2 over Paul Darling in his Ferrari, I believe. Double checking that. Yes. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, you mentioned BOP, Sean. We might want to make a note here that the league admins have done nothing regarding BOP in these vehicles. Pretty much the way they came onto iRacing is the way they roll out onto the track.
And as you said that, Jeffrey Ooms has topped Humberto Roca's time by just about a tenth, less than a tenth actually, at a 2:12.9. So Jeffrey Ooms, a bit of a surprise there. I didn't really peg him as being a top runner, but he has shown himself to be a force to be reckoned with, at least in qualifying.
Yeah, he had the hook up there on the set for sure. Probably got it very, very light in the tank and got the car a little bit free and was able to wheel it around for a 2:12.9, which is a great lap here around Spa in that GT. But Roca still not to be denied here. He's going around for another one and on his way to Blanchimont now. We'll see what he can do here on this, his second flying lap around Spa.
Worth noting, Noon's 2:12.9 is 0.2 of a second faster than any time turned in practice. Now Humberto was only a mere 700ths off of that on his first qualifying lap. Like you mentioned though, Sean, here coming around to complete lap number 2, cross the line, and he must have had an off because it didn't register a time.
Ooh, yep.
And as that happened, Teo Bubicic has had an off and towed back to the pits, and he does not have a time put in.
Well, the big mistake by Roca actually getting out of La Source, guys. Sorry, that's why I came on there.
And there we see Teo's spin that was coming through Puhan. He didn't hit anything. I'm not sure why. He just kind of pulled to the inside of the corner and then just stopped. Could have continued on, but something may have happened that we weren't aware of in real life as he has come back out on track, it looks like. And I think he should have enough time to get himself that warm-up lap and a single flying lap in. So with Roca's problem, though, that means he's going to have to come back around before he can hope to improve his time to gain that 1/10 to topple Jeffrey Ooms for the overall pole.
Yeah, Roca definitely going to need another lap to get it done, Joe.
Oh, we had a spinner there.
Oh, and it was Paul Darling just behind them. Goes off at no name.
One of our top contenders. And let's watch on the replay. Did he touch the wall? Did he get any sort of damage? Oh, yes, definitely. So that means I'm not sure if he'll have enough time to come back around.
Now these three have Jeffrey Ooms, Humberto Roca and Paul Darling all within 0.2 of another, and then they have 0.4 to the next car, the 4th place car, Dino Topic, who just had an off on a hot lap, so he towed to the pits and is coming back out. But like you just said, Joe, I don't think he'll have enough time to get back to the start-finish line, so maybe just some extra practice here, and sure enough, he pulls it to a halt. And then they have another 0.4 over Mikel Agrudo, and he has another 0.6 over Victor Tanaka. So a little bit spread out at the front of the GTE field, but hopefully that draft down the Kemmel Straight during race day will keep them quite close together.
Only 2 drivers have yet to put a time in, Teo Bubicic and Jason Lundy. Teo is coming around right now. I think this is finishing his warm-up lap, though. We'll find out in a moment. Yes, it is.
And another thing to that point I just mentioned, half a second here sounds like a lot, but when you consider how big this circuit is, it's probably, when you do it percentage-wise, about as much as 0.2 of a second at, your typical sized road course.
which is fairly close, but still a gap nonetheless, as we watch Jason Lundy come around in his Ford GT up to the bus stop chicane. Let's see if Jason puts a lap time in so that he doesn't have to start at the back of the pack. Crosses the line, and I do not see a time. There he goes. 2:15.03. That's going to put him 8th so far. 9th now as he gets bumped down by another car putting a time in.
Paul Darling was about to start another hot lap, but pulled it into the pits instead.
Yeah, it was actually Trampus Kolthoff that dropped him there, Joe. Gets himself up to 8th with his third lap, a 2:14.8.
Mere 2/10 ahead of him, which has got to be frustrating, getting yourself in there and then immediately being demoted.
I think Ooms crossed the line just in time for another lap. He might not need it if he stays on the top spot.
Yeah, race control just coming across saying they can complete their flying laps now, but qualifying is over for the GTEs. And again, only the flying laps count.
Even though the checkered flag is not up on our graphic, it is out according to the stewards, with them taking these final 5 minutes for their last driver briefing, get everybody up to speed with their race individual rules. As we said, Jeffrey Ooms still leading the way on the timing sheets in the GTE class. Humberto Roca is not going to be able to topple him, though he's less than a 10th behind. Paul Darling the same, Dino Topic, all three drivers behind him are in the pits.
Teo Bubicic about to come across the line to complete his one and only lap of the session. We have about 20 drivers in qualifying, and he goes 5th of them in the GTE class.
The car's still out there. Let's see who is able to improve on their times. I see Jarrett Lawson is going to come around. He just is approaching the bus stop chicane, currently sitting in 8th on the timing sheets. Oh, and he blows the first apex. Doesn't even get close to the... Oh, tries to find grip out of the corner, and that is certainly not going to help his time, and he does not, in fact, improve as he crosses.
Yeah, a couple more drivers coming around the final turn. Robert Tarbox Jr. doesn't improve. Oh, does improve. Goes up to 12th. And Trampus Kolthoff right behind, qualified 7th.
Yeah, he moves up to 7th, actually. He was sitting back in 10th. That was a good lap for Trampus.
Jay Friels and Jeffrey Ooms, and Jeffrey Ooms pulls off, so he won't improve his pole time. But let's see what Jay Friels does. He's currently behind Dexter Castro, who is in the GT3 class, and he's not able to best that pole sitter in the slower class, which means he will start next to him. That will end our qualifying, as Sam said. So we are going to take a short break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with our grid and the start of our round 2 here in the Ricmotech.com challenge. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps, where we're watching round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge. And after qualifying having finished, we have our pole sitter decided. Jeffrey Ooms managed to best Humberto Roca, surprising a few of us here in the booth. Those two are going to be starting on the front row with Paul Darling starting in third, very close behind. Dino Topic managed to get himself into P4 on the timing sheets. Then it's Teo Bubicic in 5th, followed by Miguel Alcrudo in 6th, and Trampus Kolthoff starting in the 7th position. Victor Tanaka will start in 8th. Behind him, it's Jarrett Lawson in P9. Rounding out the top 10, it'll be Jason Lundy starting in 10th. Emil Garcia will be in the 11th position, and he'll be followed by Robert Tarbox Jr. on the outside of that 6th row in 12th. James Stacy starts in 13th today, with Julie Redmond in 14th. In 15th, it's going to be Ricardo Perez, followed by Samuel Scott in 16th. P17 will be Chris Hudson. Beside him in 18th will be Andrew Horsley. And then Peter Hebron rounds out our GTE field in 19th until we get to Dexter Castro on the pole, Sam, for the GT3 class.
Yeah, because then right after Castro, you get the 20th and final GT car, that's Trey Fields, and then you get to the second place GT3 car, Dougie Beard, ahead of Tim Collier and Drew Lidke, and then David Slee is 5th in that class. 6th in that class is Kenneth Rodriguez. He did not turn a time in qualifying, and so let's go to the GTC field with Sean.
That's right. The Porsches here. Bart Workman going to lead them off today. Great qualifying effort by him. Jay Dargett going to start 2nd in class. Paul Hamilton, the Indiana driver, will start 3rd. Scott Johnson starting 4th today for them. Matthew Overton will start 5th in the Porsches. Ralph Kemmerer 6th today. Anthony James 7th, and Mark Ruggiero will start 8th.
That will be our field today. You can see Kenneth Rodriguez rounding out our field out there. GT3 car that did not get a time in. We should mention that as they get ready for the rolling start behind the roof pace car, they do have what's called an orange zone in this series on the starts. They make it custom to each track. They're each a little bit different in length. In this case, the orange zone will extend up towards, I believe, about the middle of the Kemmel Strait, if I'm reading my map correctly. And what the orange zones means is that they can pass if they want as the pace car takes off here. However, any incidents that they have with another car, anything that is an infringement on the rules or unfair driving that they deem, can be penalized a little bit more harshly than it would be in normal racing. That's just because they want to get nice, clean starts, and they want everybody to try to pay some respect on these beginnings of the race to make sure everybody can get over the line, get through the first few corners, and have a nice, fun race for the next 100 minutes. Pace car is going to come into the pits here, but they will not start at the timing and scoring line that we were calling them here after the bus stop. They will start the race on the rundown after La Source. So, Ooms is going to lead them slowly down the GP course pit straight, past the grandstands, past the start-finish line. They're going to work their way around that hairpin, go a little bit down the hill, and then the green flag will wave. As we see these GTE cars, Ferraris and Fords, an infamous rivalry in GT racing, come down for round 2 here today. The first one we're covering here on the Global Sim Racing channel. What kind of jumps is Ooms going to get? He waits patiently. Everybody working their way around the corner as they get the green flag. And it looks like Ooms gets a decent jump as he slots in just ahead of Roca. They get single file. The cars behind them, though, many of them still double file as they work their way through Eau Rouge. Can be tricky even at these low speeds. But it looks as though everybody has gotten through clean.
Yeah, now we go back to the GTE start, Sean.
Yes, sir.
GT3, rather.
Dexter Castro leading the way on them. It looks like Dougie Beard dropped off a little bit.
I'm sorry, Joe. Our overall leader, Jeffrey Ooms, had an off. He's dropped to 5th.
Who's in a number of positions. We're going to get back to it later. They are still very crowded up in that GTE class as they work their way down through No Name.
Yeah, the GTC class, Bart Workman has gotten off to a flying start, guys. He just got out of Lacombe, setting himself up now to head down to Rivage. Everybody following in behind him. Jay Dargett with a good start. Scott Johnson there in third.
So all 33 cars took a green. 33 cars took a green flag. Joe. One started from the pits, and we got a big mess.
Yeah, I just saw that as well. I'm trying to see which cars are involved in that. It looks like Jarrett Lawson was one of them.
They can all take one free repair. Jason Lundy in it too. Miguel Alcrudo. This in that really big GTE field. So the GTE field has seen a bit of carnage on this opening lap.
Looks like it started between Lundy and Tanaka. They were side by side here in Defanies. There you're going to see the red and the yellow machine just getting together side by side. That knocked him around. Poor Lundy had nowhere to go. Or actually, who was that with Tanaka? That wasn't Lundy that got him. It looks like that was Miguel Alcrudo, actually, that got into his side as we come back live now.
Yeah, and here you see Humberto Roca leading overall. He also had an off when Jeffrey Ooms went off, but his off wasn't as severe and he got back on course in the lead.
Things have shuffled up at the top of our GTE class. Roca leads Darlene, leads Topic, leads Ooms, who has regained one of the positions he lost at the start. Let's check in on our GT3s, though. Dexter Castro still at the top of them.
Yeah, Dexter is at the top of them right now, but I'll tell you what, good battle back there between, it was Jay Dargett was just in a good battle there with Kenneth Rodriguez. Dargett was able to get around several cars as they get by, several cars making their way out of the pit lane there, Joe.
That was our GTC class, I believe, Dargett, as he is mixed up a little bit. Kenneth Rodriguez, as you mentioned, behind him in the GT3s, trying to find his way forward after starting at the back of the field and out of his class.
Well, he actually made a pit start to avoid all that, did Jay Fields. Meanwhile, Samuel Scott, one of our street drivers in the field who has a first name for a last name as well, just had a bit of an off, lost a few positions in GTE. So, who else we got there? We got Samuel Scott, Anthony James, and James Stacy.
Sam's favorite thing of the day, apparently, as we take a look at Scott, 17th in class at the moment. Bart Workman is leading our GTCs, but he's not that far ahead of Dargett, who finally gets overtaken by Rodriguez.
Talking about
Rodriguez
overtaking.
again, not in class.
Talking about overtaking, there may be some for the overall lead very soon. Paul Darling has caught right up with the back of Humberto Roca.
Very close behind indeed. Here as we ride on board with Darling. A defensive move by Roca down to the bus stop means he feels under threat as they weave their way through. And they are actually followed closely by Topic, as well as Ooms and Bubicic, who are keeping them in check. So our top five all within about 2 seconds of one another.
Joe, there was some kind of trouble with Dougie Beard. I'm trying to figure out what it was. Not sure, but I think he might have had a connection issue of some sort.
Going back and looking myself as well. And yeah, I think maybe he just lost connection because he disappeared. That means Dexter Castro has no competition behind him as he's stretched away from Samuel Scott by a good 2 seconds. Oh, and look at this battle on screen, though, that we have here at the top of the GTEs. Teo trying to fend off Ooms. Trying to take it away from Ooms, actually, as Ooms used to be in 4th place. And now Teo, the Central Eastern Europe driver, has moved himself up in the top 4.
Confirmation that Beard lost the connection. Meanwhile, Sean, I see a Mercedes coming into the pits without a hood. David Slee has apparently been in an incident, so he'll get to take his fast repair.
Yeah, he's going to be glad he had it. Slee getting into trouble, though, needing to come in early here.
We're going to try and find the replay as we pull up one of them. Is this the incident? Has the hood here, so at least we know it was before whatever happened. The Canadian driver coming around the second apex of Stavelot. Wonder if maybe it was coming through Blanchimont. They're flat out here all the way up to that infamous left-hander.
Yeah, Formula 1 car, you can do this part of a turn flat out, not so much a GT car.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it didn't
got
that well,
way
yeah.
loose.
Again,
Huge slam.
Glad to have that fast repair, because that would have been an ender without it.
Glad we have virtual racing, because that would have hurt without
Yeah.
it.
So what we've got is we've got a lot of the cars that got involved early on that first lap trying to get through the Porsches right now, and poor Mark Maggero just had to let Jarrett Lawson and Miguel Crudo get by, and Crudo's basically door slammed him as he's going by. Ruggiero having trouble early, and he's just struggling to stay in the race right now, and it was kind of a scary moment.
Definitely not what you want is these GTE cars trying to work their way through the slowest class this early on when they haven't had a chance to separate. We're watching them in 18th and 19th position in class. A long way to go, but still lots of racing to go. An hour and a half still on the clock. And our leaders are keeping extremely close, only 3/10 between Darling and Roca.
Yeah, and I think these guys have got to be thinking big picture, Joe. We're only 6 minutes into a 100-minute race, and especially in the GTE class, Ferrari and Ford's the fastest class we have. There's been a lot of carnage in these opening stages. I have a feeling these cars just need to get their tyres warm, get a rhythm going, get some laps in.
There's action elsewhere in that class as well, as Chris Hudson in 11th trying to chase Ricardo Perez. Those two close together as they come through Rivage. The Ferrari of Hudson just tracking the car ahead now as they go through No Name, plunging down the hill. Doesn't get a good run off. Slight gap opening up to Perez now.
Meanwhile, let's go back to the GTC class, Sean, where Bart Workman is leading the field.
Yeah, you know, Bart is leading that GTC field, but not by much. He has got some company there. Jay Dargett is giving him a really, really good run, and in fact, running up on him now. Dargett getting a little bit better trip there through Malmedy. And Rivage here is certainly an area where you can make up a little bit of ground, and he's doing it, keeping it hugged right down there on the curb. Jay got a pretty good setup under that Porsche, it seems like, and he's able to close on Workman here.
Certainly putting the pressure on. These Porsches weaving their way through the infamous hills of Spa down through Puhan. They both chuck it in. A little bit of a slide from Workman. Wonder if that'll lose him some time. Looks like he recovers fine, though, as they hit the bottom of the hill and head towards Fandies. Now, one thing that we didn't touch on, since we've seen a few cars head down pit lane to get their spare car, Sean, this is the endurance layout. You really, really don't want to have to head down that pit lane any more times than you need to.
No, it is a long trip, sir. It is a really, really long ride through there, and especially if you're damaged, you're trying to, get the car back in there without a tow. That could just take forever, and the time lost there will certainly hurt you at the end of 100 minutes for sure.
A treacherous pit road too, Joe. We've seen a car flip over in the right-hander at La Source in pit road once here on the GSRC.
We have. You can get damage and cause a checkup. Meanwhile, we watched a little bit earlier. Hudson has managed to overtake Perez up towards Lacombe. He got a run down the Kimmel Straight, and he has now moved that car up into 10th overall.
There could be a change for first overall soon, and I don't think it's because Darlin's going to make a move, but Roca's going to make a mistake. Humberto Roca, I know he's a very strong driver, but he does seem to be missing a few apexes or taking a few funny lines here early on. I have a feeling he might have his eyes on that rearview mirror.
Wonder if he's abusing the tires just a little bit too much. Things getting sloppy out there. These two do have a slight gap back to Tokic in third. Then they've got Teo and Jeffrey Ooms in that three-way fight for the last step on the podium. They're coming up through Blanchimont. What can we see from Darling? He's very close behind. He should have a draft. Down towards the bus stop they go. Are we going to see Roca go defensive? No, he stays to the racing line as they all accordion together. Not quite as good under braking there for Paul Darling, and as they exit, he regains the ground.
Yeah, but I think Darling keeps doing this. It doesn't look like he's going to make a move unless he's invited to do so. The problem is, Joe, if he doesn't make a move, maybe if Topic finally catches him back up, he might think about making one.
I'm sure Topic is going to be hungry for good results. He's been having atrocious race after atrocious race in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge in the prototype class. So being able to finish on the podium will be welcomed. Meanwhile, you're right, as we saw a big lift there from Paul Darling, even though he had a run down the Kimmel Straight.
But likewise, you see Roker really not taking the desired racing line through Lake Comset.
Into Rivage once more. They've closed in. It is now a 5-way fight for the lead once again. We don't have to go to it as we watch this fight, but Miguel Alcrudo and Jarrett Lawson still 23rd and 24th overall. And Workman.
Oh, the leader, Bart Workman with trouble, the GTC leader. Joe, trouble getting into the chicane? Say it isn't so. Oh, my.
And he made contact with the wall. You see here on the replay as he loses the rear under braking. I don't believe these cars have ABS, do these Porsches?
They don't, Joe, and I was going to say this earlier. They're not fun to stop, by the way. The brakes on these things, not as good as I thought they would be. I was less than impressed, and there's significant front end damage on the front of Workman's car.
Well,
he's going to have to ride all the way around with that.
He could have come into the pit, Sean, but two reasons he didn't. One is because, as Joe mentioned, it's a long pit road, and two, when you wreck that close to the pits, you don't know how well your car's handling. And oh boy, man, they're really stacked up for the overall lead, but no changes in position. So we'll continue to look at our new GTC leader, Dre Dargett.
Manages to inherit it. We also saw a little bit of Scott Johnson and Anthony James back in at second and third, who also gained a position over Workman. We haven't checked in on GT3 in a while. It's the smallest class and hasn't been a whole lot of action. Dexter Castro still leads the way. The car directly behind is a GTE, so he will be overtaking Dexter probably relatively soon. Even though that's for overall position, is not for class position, as Garcia sneaks on by in the bus stop.
Yeah, Dexter going to let him have it. That's the better line for Dexter anyway, to run it out wide and then back in and over. And as you can see, he gets a really smooth
He's bump
trip
drafting him.
Yeah.
Doesn't work in these cars.
Yeah, I know, but he didn't want to have to lift and he didn't want to fight him, so I think he's just giving the hurry up as Garcia has more trouble trying to get the power down coming out of La Source, and this is just frustrating the main driver.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I'd be a little frustrated right now, too. Now able to get a little distance there between them, but Dexter, of course, leading the GT3s right now.
That was Dino Topic, yeah.
He was in third. Now, I think the two cars behind him got through unscathed.
Doesn't look to be any contact. That would have been Teo and Jeffrey Ooms who avoided him, although Ooms was extremely close there.
Yeah. I think he might have actually clipped him, Joe.
We're going to watch on board, get a sense of it with here. Down through Poulan, 2 cars ahead, starts to lose it. Wow, there's just no time to react.
And that relieves the pressure a little bit on Roker and Darling.
Certainly frees them up to fight a little bit more if they want to. Darling hasn't shown signs that he has any intention of making the pass yet. Could be trying to do this through fuel strategy, I wonder.
They catch right up with Mark Ruggiero there, who'll try to get out of the way in his Porsche, and he pulls to the left side of the track, but boy, that almost got ugly.
Right on board with Paul in his Ferrari. And once again, Rocco going defensive, a pass behind them, as it looks like, that's Teo overtaking Mark. Ooms has got to get by him soon here, though.
James Stacey, one of the 4 GTs running in the top 10, comes down pit road. This is an early scheduled stop, perhaps?
Not entirely sure what the distance that they can make. Meanwhile, let's check in on Jeffrey Ooms real quick. Remember, he's in 4th. He got bumped up after Dino's spin, but he was caught behind Mark Ruggiero up Eau Rouge. And just look at the gap that cost him. 3 seconds now between himself and 3rd place Teo Bubicic. Probably not worth a replay, unfortunately, but very much slowed down by that incident.
Tell you what, the one thing we haven't noted about this 5-way battle, which is now unfortunately only a 4-way battle for the GTE lead, is how much Roca, Darlin, Bubicic and Ooms have pulled away from the rest of the GTE field. Tarbox Jr. running in 6th right now, 13 seconds behind Roca.
That is a significant gap for sure. Tarbox running in 6th, though. Julie Redmond's giving him a run for his money, a top 10 for the driver from the Carolina club.
Yeah, Redmond didn't qualify too well. She started 14th, but in just the opening 18 minutes here, she's worked her way up to 7th.
Okay, guys. I got a development in GT3s here. You want to cover that real quick? We can. Just that Dexter Castro still in the lead. David Slee all of a sudden very, very slow on track, coming at a no name.
Remember, he had that damage to it earlier. Maybe he's
he took the repair, but he did let the leaders by. One of them being his teammate there, Tim Collier, getting by. Drew Lidke sits there in 2nd. And that was interesting. He didn't. Maybe it's just because of where he was on track. He decided that was a good time to just slow down and let him by. But golly, he practically stopped that car.
Interesting with him being 3rd in class, or excuse me, no, we're looking at Tim Collier right now, trying to chase down Lidke and Castro.
Yeah, well, Slee had trouble early. He's already come in for a pit stop about 5 laps ago, so he had trouble in those couple of opening laps there.
Of all of our cars that have started this race, the 34 that took to the track, only 2 have retired here in the first 20 minutes. That would be Jay Friels and Dougie Beard. Jay, we know, manually disconnected. Dougie, unfortunately, had an unintentional disconnect due to an internet problem.
Yeah, and he hasn't came back. Sometimes you see drivers come back when that's an issue. Jay Friels, as we mentioned, started from the pits because he kind of qualified outside of his class a little bit, logged a few laps, and then decided to call it a day.
We've had a decent battle for 13th with Samuel Scott holding on to the back of Robert Tarbox Jr. This is in the GTE class. Both drivers in Ferraris. They're trying to run away from Peter Hebron, who's, I'm sure, wanting them to battle just a little bit to allow him to close in. Work their way down towards Puhan. Not able to gain much ground out of No Name. Closing in a little bit. Oh, a little wide from Robert Tarbox, though. And just look at that from Samuel Scott. He's now gone from 6 tenths down to 3.
Joe, sorry, buddy. Got trouble coming down to the chicane here.
Yeah.
Got the GTE leaders getting into it with the Porsches. Oh, everybody down there at the same time getting bottlenecked up.
Bubicic has been getting the worst end of all of these scenarios because, whoa, watch out, buddy. Because all of these Porsches are letting the top 2 by and then thinking, okay, that's it, I'm clear. But then Bubicic is right behind them, and right now, Ooms can't find his way through.
Ooms was trying to make it 3 wide. Teo also made it 3 wide. That car that basically ran him off the road was Ralph Kammerer.
Yeah, Ralph might be off the Christmas card list this year.
Well, they managed to make it through at least. It almost.
Trouble! Workman almost get. Oh man, they made Workman and Ooms made contact. Joe, they're up at the top.
We saw that on screen coming over the hill of Radillion. He had a run. He thought he could sneak around the outside. Let's watch it once more from a different angle. Yeah, just didn't expect that Porsche, which doesn't have as much grip, to swing out wide.
Well, Workman's also working with the fact that he never came in the pit, Joe. That car still has heavy front-end damage on it, and it does not have as good a grip right now. The downforce certainly affected by the heavy front-end damage on that car.
Art using his namesake's ethic to try and do what he can with this race, despite the damage, and just getting swamped as the classes are trying to go by him, unfortunately. What this does do is it separates Teo and Jeffrey Ooms about 2 seconds apart, and Teo now 2 seconds back from our leaders Roca and Darling.
Yeah, well, Roca and Darling almost got caught up in that mess coming to the bus stop last lap as well, and now you see a gap between them. That's because the Anthony James, Porsche they're lapping, currently running third in his class, he actually kind of got in the way of Darling as they came out of Pujon, and so that allowed Roca to break away a little bit.
They've got one more car to try and get by a few of these Porsches. Actually, Scott Johnson is up next as he hits the bus stop chicane. Roca coming in steaming. Wow, and Roca very loose into there.
Fourth in Porsche class, Ralph Camere had a big spin, and I think he lost a few positions.
I wonder if we can get a replay of that. That looked to be just coming out of Fany's.
Yeah, he's dropped to 7th in class, our graphic tells us there. Now he's got to let a couple of GTEs by. He didn't hit anything, I don't think, but like I say, lost a few spots.
We're going to look at that replay. That battle that we were watching on screen was Scott and I believe Robert Tarbox. Here we see the spin. Oof. Whoever that was in the Porsche getting by was very lucky.
Let's keep with this replay. Let's jump to Ricardo Perez, a Ferrari driver. He had been running in the top 10 in the GTE class, but as he came into the bus stop this lap, so we do have to wait a few seconds here, but he had a big moment and he lost some positions too. So try and see what kicked this all off. You can see he had to deal with some traffic in front.
I believe that is for position with that Ferrari that just managed to sneak by the Porsche, and you can see how frustrating it must be for Perez to have to sit and wait. Tries to go to the inside.
Yeah. He's going to get tipped by Overton there, Matthew Overton. Oof. Very, very close moment there for Perez.
And he nearly got into the back of that other Porsche.
Yeah, Paul Hamilton. Now Hamilton and Overton are fighting on track for these positions here. It's a battle for 5th.
Coming down through No Name, they're going to have Jason Lundy try to get by. He's going to get one before they hit Pujon. Can't quite get two, so he will split them. Oh, but he gives them the inside. Hamilton trying to be polite, could cost himself a spot. Look at all the momentum he's lost. Here comes Overton off of the corner. Hamilton has to stay defensive down into Fany's, holds the middle of the road, and despite being a little bit generous on Pujon, doesn't lose the position.
Yeah, that section's so hard to get through right there by itself, and then you have to defend your line there. Overton still digging behind. This is one of those spots where we talked about in the pre-race, Joe, that, you know, they'd be looking, you don't want to go too far off course there and exceed the track limits. They both do a good job of getting through, and now have to let another Robert Tarbox coming through now.
Tarbox gets one of them, splits them as they come through Blanchemont, but they go through there much slower as he goes way off to try and keep from running into the Porsche, and he loses it, dipping his wheels into the grass, tries to slow the car down, stays between them, somehow doesn't hit anything. He had to save that thing about 3 times.
Perez and Scott coming out of the chicane, watch out.
And these 3 GTE cars are for position. Perez is trying to stay defensive, a move that thankfully Overton saw and didn't come over to the racing line, as it's getting all kinds of mixed up between these two classes.
Wow, wow, wow.
1 hour 14 minutes to go, guys.
Yeah,
that's
really. So Tarbox cleared Hamilton, but Perez did not and is held up coming up the hill. His momentum severely diminished. Now his extra power is able to get him to try and get his nose ahead of the Porsche driver, but only just barely. Superior brakes sneaking him through, and he puts that Porsche between himself and Sam Scott.
Oh, that's calmed down a bit. It could be heat up again. Actually, it is heating up again.
Yeah, I believe that's Peter Hebron, also in a GTE machine, a Ford GT, trying to chase down Samuel Scott. That is for 14th position. They are struggling to get by Hamilton. This is where they're faster. Wow, just look at Hamilton smoke the left front up, down into the corner, trying to give him the inside, and they get through. But it looks like Scott comes out the better of them. Now, something may have happened to James Stacy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Ford GT has big trouble there.
We've got the replay. This is in Lacombe. Oh, no, it's by himself.
Yeah. He misses the entry there. Just quite simply just misses it and cooks it. Doesn't make contact, but does take him a long time to get restarted there and going again.
And Sean, I can tell you, having run this Ford in at Le Mans earlier this year, that car really likes to do that if you come in too hot and you abuse it. The rear doesn't want to stay pointed forward.
No, it doesn't. You really can't miss your braking zone in that car. If you do, you will pay for it, just like he did.
Oh, and Emil Garcia, did he have a serious problem coming through Blanchimont? Looks like he did. He's stationary. Let's look at the replay. He was behind, I believe it was a GTC car. No, yes, it was. And just got a little loose, maybe the air taken off the nose, and the overcorrection sent him right to the tires.
And I think he took a tow to get that back into the pits. Maybe his engine blew, because I would have tried to have drove that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as he hit the rear end of that Ferrari, with that being a mid-engine car, it probably took quite a lick.
That's very unfortunate for Garcia there. Meanwhile, I want to give a bit of a shout out to Dino Topic. We saw him have that spin earlier, but ever since then, he's been putting on solid lap times. He's opened up 8 seconds over Koltov behind him, and he's and now he's gaining more over Koltov, because look what happened here.
Yeah, Koltov has trouble.
Yeah, this is with Jay Dargert, our leader in the Porsches, tries to stick his nose in, and Dargert was very vocal on the radio about his displeasure. You can see, thankfully, for Dargert at least, he managed to continue without any sort of incident, but Koltov lost a chunk of time.
And that moves Trudy Redmond up into the 6th position.
She now has to disperse with our Porsche leader.
So, yeah, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Topic there. I know also he's been able to catch Ooms just due to the fact that Ooms and Bubachik in front of him have been dealing with a lot of bad traffic.
Ooms will have to find himself a mantra to be able to get through all this frustration. He still sits in 4th, though, with that 8-second gap over Topic.
Garcia has retired. That's only our 3rd retirement of the race.
Update on the GT3 class. Dexter Castro just had a little trouble getting around some traffic. Ralph Kemmerer was in front of Castro, and Castro got slowed up just a bit. It allowed Drew Lidke to close in from that 2nd spot. He's got it down to just over 2 seconds now. At one point, it was about 4.5 seconds back, guys.
Can Drew do anything with Dexter in this race? They still have pit stops to go through as well. We haven't talked about pit strategy a whole lot, but that will be of utmost importance.
Now the GT3 car started.
Oh, Teo with problems coming through Puhan. Seems to be Calamity Corner today.
Only lost 1 position, fortunately, because Topic did the same earlier, so he basically comes back out in front of Topic.
That gap that was 8 seconds between 4th and 5th is now 2. Looking through the order, just a quick rundown of your podiums. In the GTEs, Roca, Darling, and Ooms lead the way. When you get to your GT3s, Castro, Lidke, and Collier are at the top of the charts. And then once you get to the Porsches, Dargert, Johnson, and James lead the way. Interesting update as well. Remember, drivers such as Lawson and Alcrudo had problems on the very first lap in the GTE class, where they are just now getting by our GT3 leader of Dexter Castro.
Dexter's still out there having a good ride, Joe.
Certainly seems to have been calm so far. Hasn't been hassled too much for the lead.
Victor Tanaka in the pits, one of the top running GTEs, although I fear it may not be scheduled. He's got some damage to the left front of that Ferrari.
Sad to see Tanaka, who used to be very much a front runner in this series, suffering some problems. Ooh, yeah, good damage on that left front. That fender quite askew.
Yeah, going back to try and work out where it happened.
Looks like we're unfortunately not able to bring that up, so as we come back live, he's only just now getting to his stall on the run down. This is a great example to show you how long it takes to get through this endurance pit lane. Oh, we got a battle for position for 12th, I believe it is, as Scott tries to overtake Perez. He's looking around the outside, but he's not brave enough in the braking zone as he loses the second apex to Perez. Dargert was kidding on the radio. I think he was trying to coach Jason Lundy through.
Yeah, and you know what? Just I actually thanked him. Said nice setup there, and yeah, they worked together on getting by each other. That's job well done. Dargert remains the leader in pretty strong fashion. He's 13 seconds up on Scott Johnson right now.
Boy, it is, oh my goodness, if we could go back to Jarrett Lawson, he nearly took out Matthew Overton in the Porsches as he chops the door on him. Let's watch this replay coming into Lacombe. Thought he had the apex, and well, he eventually did, but only by a matter of inches. You're going to see here as he turns in. Whew.
And that's the second close call for Overton that I can remember right now.
Now, just before we went to that replay, and we'll get another view of the replay here, you saw that Paul Darling has run down our overall leader, Roca, again, as we get an onboard from Overton. And he backed out. I can understand why the Ford thought he had the corner, because Overton had backed out, but didn't have a corner by a lot.
Yeah, there was some extreme trust, and absolutely, Darling, I was noticing the same thing, who was as far back as I believe 2 seconds from Roca, chopped it down to about half a second. They are well free and clear of Ooms at this point with about a 6-second gap. As they come down through No Name towards Pujon. Closes in just that little bit more, 10th by 10th. He is reeling him in.
But if it remains the same as what we saw earlier, he's not going to try and pass him on course, at least this early in the race. We'll see if he can force Roca into a mistake or get him on pit strategy, because of course he's probably saving a bit of fuel using his slipstream.
My mind was going the exact same place, with him not really making any attempts of what were multiple good opportunities. It really smacks of fuel saving.
Yeah, well, let me talk a little bit about the fuel saving right here, okay? Because we're now at a point right now we're just under 15 minutes to the halfway point here, Joe. Boy, you'd sure like to be able to do this race in one stop if you can. But the GT3 started with 70% fuel, and Dexter Castro leading them right now. I don't know if
And our leader's in.
And there we go.
Indeed, we were riding with Paul Darling, and we saw Roca's Ford GT peel off into the pit lane.
And Ooms behind him. Darling. So Darling has been able to stretch his fuel one extra lap.
Yeah, and those cars started with the GTE class. They started with 67% fuel, so they've maxed out now. And so it looks like that's 16 laps for the GTEs.
And if that's an extra lap that Darling was able to save, that could be critical down the line.
Well, Bubachik and Topich are out there too. Maybe those two were saving earlier when they were running 5 in a row.
Could have been. Also, they're a lot farther behind, though. Granted, that was mostly due to mistakes in traffic from the two of them.
Now, of course, during these pit stops, Joe, we'll see some drivers lose a lot of time to others during one round of stops and then gain it during the next round, because I think everyone's going to want to change tyres once, but do you want to change tyres on your first stop or your last stop?
Guys, Jay Dargett came in the Porsche class.
So our GTC leader now coming in for his stop. The interesting thing about that, Sam, though, and Sean, you could maybe go on about this a little bit, is I don't know if these GTE cars will necessarily change tires, because they have the Le Mans rule where they cannot change tires and fuel at the same time.
That's right. And so, you know, it's a tough call. Do you take the tires now, or do you wait? Now you know you're going to have to come in one more time. Do you take tires now and save it for just a splash and go at the end, or do you go ahead and double stint and then just take, go ahead and bite the bullet and take tires and just enough fuel to finish? Boy, I like the idea of maybe double stinting the tires and see if you can open it up on the leaders a little bit, but that's a tough call to make right now.
Well, remember, there were GTE cars at Le Mans that were double stinting on a full tank of fuel. I wonder if we'll see the same set of tires do the entire race in this GTE class.
Well, Jeffrey Ooms has gotten by Humberto Roca during that round of stops, so let's not forget, despite the fact that Ooms kind of faded, he was our pole sitter. So now who knows, after this round of pit stops, he might be back up where he started this thing. As meanwhile, we've got Bart Workman and a lot of drivers behind him coming in.
And Workman coming out, and guys, I did not see him use his fast repair. The front end of that car is still very damaged.
Well, I guess his pace is good enough that the 309 is happy with what it can achieve as he now finally comes up the pit exit through Eau Rouge.
Boy, he must have banked that. Boy, Dargett is in for a very, very long pit stop. I'm not sure what happened there.
Maybe tires.
Could be. The Porsche, I don't know as much about the tires and how long those can last. The number 22 now coming out, just hitting the cones and exiting pit lane. Interesting note about Paul Darling. He did not pit this time by. He has kept going.
Yeah, nor did Bubachik or Topich.
Oh, I've got a huge update on Dargett, actually, guys. He ran out of fuel going around that last lap, going in the pit. He did not make it head to toe.
Man, that won't help your pit stop time, man. Anthony James into the pits.
Scott Johnson, also of the Porsches, comes on in.
So that's our two Porsche leaders right there. Johnson ahead of James.
Now I think you guys touched on this a little bit ago with Ooms and Roca being behind him. Has Ooms already taken his stop?
Yes, Ooms got by. Oh, and I thought we had the spin in the last turn, but no. Whoa! Dino Topic just overtook a Porsche coming into the pits. Got a little hectic there. Darling goes around again, but Bubachik and Topic come in. And just the way they swerve back and forth to enter this pit almost looks like a spinning around.
Wow, that was tight and ambitious of the Canadian driver. But he made it work. Credit to him.
Redmond in 2. Oh, and we got a couple cars. Kolthoff.
That's Kolthoff, yeah. Coming into the bus stop. He was trying to overtake, I believe it's a Porsche of Bart Workman.
Yep.
And he looks like he just got in too hot. And that allows Chris Hudson to sneak through.
Workman trying to get through and catch Scott Johnson and Anthony James as they got off the pit road. Workman's going to pass Ralph Kemmerer, who's getting in, and Matthew Overton, who's still in there.
A little bit chaotic at the moment.
Yeah.
Both between the pit stops and mistakes happening around the track. This has shuffled things up a treat. Dino Topic and Teo Bubicic hit their pit stalls, both stationary at the moment. As sneaks by, Roca goes by. In fact, that gap is getting huge over the two drivers that have been making mistakes and fighting for the podium behind them.
Boy, more trouble for Bart Workman, guys. He took the emergency runoff there in Malmedy. Or I'm sorry, in Lacombe, the emergency exit road. He got in too hot, cooked it. Just kept going through there. He's sitting in third right now in the Porsches, but man, the GTC class, but again, just continues to struggle.
Darling comes in at the completion of lap 19. He has gone 3 laps longer than what Humberto Roca and Jeffrey Ooms did. Now, as Robert Tarbox Jr. has retired from the race, he looks like he has some internet trouble. So, the big development during the GTE stops is that Ooms has gone by Roca. Now, was that because Ooms got a very quick stop from conserving fuel under the first stint, or was it that Roca got a very long stop? Hopefully when Darling comes out of a pit road, we'll have that question answered for us.
Your GT3 leaders are in, guys. Castro, Collier, Lidke, all coming together. Kenneth Rodriguez is going to stay on track and get by them, take over the lead spot.
Darling still working his way down the pit lane, as you can see at the back of your screen. Dexter Castro, our leader in the GT3s.
Lidke with a very, very quick stop there. Gets out first, guys.
Manages to jump his fellow GT3 driver. Jarrett Lawson exits after his pit stop. Tim Collier now comes out.
So, looks like they're double stinting tires, Joe. Castro, though, on the other hand, looks like he might have taken his.
Darlin's not rolling yet. I'm concerned because Ooms is out of La Source going full speed. Darlin's still stationary, now finally pulls away, but I'm pretty sure Ooms is going to be our new overall leader once his round of stops is over.
Ooms gets it by a margin. And does Darling have the momentum? No, he does not, and Roca goes by.
Okay, so what this tells me, Joe, is that Ooms had a very quick stop. I almost wonder if, because I was surprised that he took pole, and after he had that early trouble, he never really rallied back. I wonder if he was saving fuel during the first stint so that he could afford to take a really quick stop and take over the overall lead.
Whatever he did, it has worked, as Jeffrey Ooms, our pole sitter, has moved himself back into P1, with Humberto Roca chasing him down only 2 seconds back. We mentioned Dexter Castro and him taking a little bit of an alternate strategy. Our former leader in the GT3s has slipped down to 4th in class over there. And Kenneth Rodriguez, last of our GT3s, finally coming in.
Yeah, he was running it out just as long as he could. Now, Lidke is going to get by him. He was only about 39 seconds up the track, I think. So the one to watch is Lidke right now, who again gambles on just fuel there, double stinting tires, along with his teammate Tim Collier there.
There we see the battle, or well, not really a battle, as that's Jarrett Lawson, who's in a different class, trying to get past the car of Drew Lidke.
I'm still reading 3 cars that have been able to go 20 laps without pitting, the top of which is Peter Hebron, who just announced he's pitting this lap. He just had a bit of an off at Blanchimont, but he's actually running as high as 4th overall right now before he is forced to come in.
There you can see him now coming into the pits.
There's a lot you can do with the fuel on those GTE cars, Joe, as we've learned. A lot of different fuel mapping settings on both the Ferrari and the Ford. So there are definitely ways to stretch it out as far as you can.
Now, I'm not sure if it was a mistake or if traffic held up. Oh, I think it was, in fact, traffic, because Roca was only 2 seconds back from Ooms, and unfortunately, Bart Workman was in the wrong place at the wrong time as far as Roca was concerned, coming out of Fangies, and cost him a little bit having to check up.
Now, when you watch oval racing, people say the driver who has it the worst with lap traffic is the leader, because everyone wants to stay on the lead lap. Now, of course, with endurance racing, that's not really the case. You can see the leader coming behind you, and you let him by easily. I think it's really... Sean, you might be able to speak on this, but I feel that being in second place is actually a worse place to be with lap traffic in endurance racing.
Yeah, that's not the spot you want to be in. No, indeed, you're absolutely right. I tell you what, I'm watching Dexter Castro, guys, and man, he is coming quickly through the field here, trying to find his way to Tim Collier's. Now it keeps falling. He's reeling him in, only 4.5 seconds away. Drew Lidke, the leader, just over 10 seconds ahead. But Castro, with those fresh balonies on that little BMW, is starting to really track around this place.
So we ride on board Castro, going just that little bit wide over the curb coming out of Blanchimont. He's going to be overtaken here by the car of Jeffrey Ooms, who sneaks on through in the bus stop.
Not the preferred line for Ooms, but he gets it done. And
Makes it clean. Yeah.
Gets by Scott Johnson, our leader in the Porsches.
Question is, even though Castro is gaining ground now, if he doesn't take tires this second time, that's going to make it hard to defend towards the end of the race. So with that, let's go through our top 5 in each of the classes. Jeffrey Ooms is your overall leader. We may have written him off a little bit, but tales of his early demise were greatly over-exaggerated. Humberto Roca has been held up a little bit by traffic and has lost the gap back to almost 4 seconds. Paul Darling about 2 seconds back from Roca in 3rd. Just outside the podium, Teo Bubicic in 4th, about 13, almost 14 seconds back from Paul Darling. And then not too far behind him, rounding out the top 5 in the GTEs, is Dino Topic. Sam?
Yeah, so then we go over to our GT3 class, which is currently being led by the number 1 of Drew Lidke, and he has a pretty handy margin over the second place car. Tim Collier, almost an identical red and white car, sitting just about 5-6 seconds back. Third place in class, well then you get to our first BMW, Dexter Castro, but we've already mentioned the situation he finds himself in. And then you have to go a little while back, actually, to the driver 4th in class, the number 378 car of Kenneth Rodriguez. So you see him just working his way out of the source and through a route, whereas Castro was all the way over in Pujol. 5th place in the GT3 class is much further back as David Slee, and he just had to crash. And that knocks his hood off again the second time. I don't think he's going to be 5th in GT3 anymore, unfortunately. Well, actually he might, because the next GT3 car, Dougie Beard, is already out of the race. So, David Slee, I think, will finish the day as he made a mistake in Pujol in 5th place in GT3. Sean?
All right, and in the GTC class, the Porsche 991, Scott Johnson, big leader right now. Anthony James, the New England driver, holding down second place, just under 5 seconds back, certainly striking distance. Bart Workman currently sitting in 3rd. He has struggled, but he remains in a podium spot. working hard out there today. Jay Dargett in 4th. Currently 42 seconds behind our leader. Paul Hamilton fighting with him for that position now. As a battle for 4th. Hamilton doing a good job so far. He is up a spot. Matthew Overton in 6th. Ralph Kemmerer in 7th. And Mark Ruggiero in 8th. All 8 cars in the GTC class still on track, Joe.
Glad to see the Porsches still running. But with that, we are going to go to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Don't go away, because you're watching round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We're watching round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge. And as you saw on the GSRC Never Left view, Dino Topic had some problems coming out of Puhan. I believe we're going to pull up the replay so you can see another angle of this. Lost it, yeah, just wow. Car started to whip around on it, and then that huge hit into the tires caused some significant damage on the front of that Ferrari.
Now Topic is still running around on the track without a hood. He's dropped to 7th, as you see on the graphic there. Boy, he had to catch it a couple of times before it finally snapped away from him. Unfortunately for Topic, not the first time we've seen him hit trouble today. I think he'll still have a free repair left on the second stop. We'll find out.
Yeah, hard to say since we didn't really pay close attention to his pit stop. Now, most every other...
big trouble, guys, for Tarbox. Tarbox and Paul Hamilton get into it. Oh, no.
That was coming up to Blanchimont, we're seeing on the replay.
Yeah, Tarbox, we mentioned earlier, had already had a bit of trouble from internet connection issues, and he was just trying to make a pass there. Man, he could have hit that wall a lot harder than what he did, but he took a toe.
Well, and Hamilton's got to be thanking his lucky stars. I don't think we quite saw it from that angle, but he basically slid to a halt out of Blanchimont and didn't touch a thing.
Nope, and takes no damage on his Porsche and lives to fight another day in 5th spot. You know, the bad thing for Hamilton is he was fighting with Jay Dargett, trying to take that 4th position from him, and then they got separated there, and then he gets into that trouble.
Meanwhile, Tarbox has officially retired from the race. Now, we documented Topic's troubles and how he'd been running in the top 5 in GTE all day long. Well, the car in GTE that now inherits the top 5 spot is Victor Tanaka. Remember, we saw him come down pit road with a puncher in the front of that Ferrari. Well, it looks alright now, and he's got a top 5 run going, so maybe he'll still salvage a good day out of this.
I think we can take that as a sign that the number 34 car has taken its free repair, so if he gets in any more trouble, things could be bad for Victor Tanaka as he works his way through Blanchimont. Let's hope for his sake that he can come home with this top 5. Still a lot of racing left to go with 42 minutes on the clock. Many of the cars have started to separate. A few are coming back together, including Dexter Castro in that GT3 class, chasing down Tim Collier after Dexter elected to take tires on this first stop of the day. They worked their way up through Eau Rouge. Just about 3/4 of a second between these two at the moment for that second position.
Dexter's been chipping away, Joe, chipping away at it a little bit at a time, and he's finally there. Now can he get around? We'll see.
Oh, crash coming out of La Source. James Stacey, who was running in the top 10 in GTE, took a hard hit. It was a collision with Trampus Kolthoff, and they were battling for position. They had traffic ahead, but Kolthoff runs off, comes back on the track, gets into the side of Stacey, and Stacey slams into the inside wall.
Boy, is it safe to say that Kolthoff has had a rough day?
Well, not as rough as James Stacey, who came out much the worse in that situation. Look at Kolthoff's car, though. The damage on the right side looks like it should affect the handling quite a bit. But he's still going on, though. Meanwhile, Castro's now caught Collier, rocks up to the rear wing of that Mercedes. BMW versus Mercedes here in the GT3 class as they come through Stavolo. Ooh, look at the run off the corner. Wow. Collier struggling to get the grip.
Yeah, Castro had to check up to basically not run him over.
Down the backstretch towards Blanchimont. Didn't get as good of a run on his competitor, but still holds within the draft using the slipstream. They come through that quick left-hander that leads them to the bus stop. But once again, not able to do anything with it as Tim Collier goes a little bit defensive, just holding the middle of the road to try and fend off Dexter Castro, the New England driver. Oh!
Gets a little loose. Yeah, gets a little loose off there. Easy to do when you're trying to get the power back down.
Doesn't lose too much time, but loses an opportunity of what could have been here into the La Source hairpin. He's going to be looking to get himself that run as they plunge down the valley into Eau Rouge. Get himself the traction over the top of Rodillion. Let's see how they fare. They're going to have a little bit of traffic exiting the pits, but it's no problem for either car. They're about even. I think Dexter just the slightest of edge coming off the corner, but it's not enough to be able to have him an opportunity up into Lacombe.
Boy, he really wasn't getting any toe up the Kimmel Straight either, Joe.
Meanwhile,
Go ahead.
give you an update over in GTE. Dino Topic just came into the pits, and I'm sure he'll take a free repair, but the funny thing about that is he was actually catching Julie Redmond out on track and would have passed her in a couple of laps, or at least been battling with her, if he hadn't come in to get, I guess what this is his second scheduled stop out of the way.
Castro setting him up to pass.
Yes, you saw exactly what I saw. He got a run coming out of no name. They're going to go try side by side through Pujon, as Dexter Castro has the inside, and that's going to give him the edge to move himself into second in the GT3s.
And I can confirm Topic did have a free repair left. He has a hood on his Ferrari now.
The way he was running down Redmond, maybe he wanted to leave it off. It was extra weight that the thing had shed.
And Sean, our overall leader, Jeffrey Ooms, is into the pits. Now, this makes a bit more sense as to how he was able to leapfrog Roca and Darlin so much. Maybe he took not as much fuel on that first stop.
See that Golf Ferrari working its way slowly down the pit lane. Now Darling is still right on the back of Roca. He has not lost that gap. Only half a second between them.
I got an update for you here, though, on the GT3s. Drew Lidke comes in from the lead to pit. Interesting. Okay.
Wonder if he saw Dexter Castro coming.
And look, his teammate behind him.
Uh-huh.
So the two Mercs are going to take a bit of an early stop for the second stop, try to run their way to the end from here.
Now remember, they didn't
seconds left on the clock. Minutes.
They didn't take tires last time, Joe.
This is really bizarre. Pit road is busy with a lot of lead cars from different classes because we've got Julie Redmond in as well. But they could have gone about 4 to 5 laps longer, I believe.
Wonder if a lot of these cars maybe are electing to take tires like you were theorizing, Sam, and wanting to make the most of them instead of only getting to use them for a short period at the end. Just spitballing here.
It's a possibility. We'll have to... I'll keep an eye on Jeffrey Ooms with that overall lead battle as he rejoins the circuit down in 5th.
He's completed his stop. Humberto Roca inherits the lead with Paul Darling well in tow. They're actually going to have to deal with some lap traffic in the form of Paul Hamilton here in a second. And that is the Porsche, and actually this could be significant because they're going to catch him where these Porsches are slow. And that's M. Blanchimont. Is this going to cause some problems for Roca? Oh!
There's your answer.
Way off.
Good
And he
heads up.
smokes the tires. Tries to get it slowed up, and this allows Paul Darling to close in, but he gets his momentum interrupted coming through the bus stop. Can't do anything with it. He is now right on top of our leader. Is he going to make an attempt into La Source? No, he stays behind.
Well, Darlin hasn't made an attempt on Roca all day. As Roca really gets a little sexy over the source there, but at some point he's gonna have to do something.
Ford versus Ferrari, and the Ford is struggling on its tires.
Yeah, you make one mistake and the tires don't like it. Now Darlin has everything he needs here to make a pass. Will he do it?
Roca stays to the inside, holding the fence. A big lift from Paul Darling. I wonder if Darling thinks that maybe Roca can hang on his coattails and just doesn't want to tow him along. This is very unusual.
I hope Darlin's not saying, I'll make a move in about 40 minutes' time.
Boys, go ahead.
I'm going to say, let me butt in here real quick. Got a couple updates for you here. All right, now Collier, Lidke came out together, 4 tires and fuel. They are back out on track on their out laps now. In the Porsches, okay, now we had Scott Johnson come in for a pit stop, guys. The leader came in. He slots back to 4th. That was his second and what we'll probably assume is going to be his final stop there in the GTC class.
That will promote Anthony James up to the lead of the GTC cars. This very patriotic scheme that he's running here shortly after the 4th of July here in the States. What I was going to say was, man, is Bill likes to say my spidey senses were tingling on those leaders as they approached that lapped car. Just seemed like something kind of shaky might happen. They've got Trampus Kolthoff, who is within their class just ahead of him, a lap down, and he should let these leaders through easily.
Kolthoff's been involved in a couple of minor incidents today, and Darling comes in. Now, let's not forget, Darling went very long, I believe, on the first stint.
He did indeed. So this is
going to be a very short stop, I think, Joe.
Which could bump him up. We'll have to keep an eye on where he comes out once Roca comes in for his stop. Roca's still held up behind Kolthoff. Now, am I seeing correctly that Dexter Castro now has inherited the lead in the GT3s?
He has, yes. He has. He's just coming around, completes another lap. That's 10 laps on this stint. Again, Lidke and Collier came in first. They showed their hand first. Castro stays on track. So does Kenneth Rodriguez. But Rodriguez a full minute and 21 seconds behind Castro. You know, again, he took those tires and fuel on his last stop here. And I got to wonder if the play is to try and double stint here, get in for, run this fuel out and get just what he needs, a splash and go. If he can accomplish that, that will put him out ahead based on the Delta times. That'll put him out ahead of Rodriguez, Lidke, and Collier.
You can see on your screen. Yeah, Darling just exited.
Already rolling a very quick stop.
I was keeping an eye on where he was in terms of Jeffrey Ooms. Now, Ooms has closed in, but he is 4.5 seconds back from Darling. Now, remember, Ooms was well ahead before this stop.
So now, where's Roca going to filter out in all of this?
Roca was getting a little bit fed up with Trampus Kolthoff. Actually had to get on the radio to let him know that he needed to get by. That could have cost him some time.
Could have cost him the race.
He comes up to the bus stop now. Is he going to pit in? Is he going to react? No, he does not. He has time. Could this be what Roca needs, though? Does he have much clean track ahead of him that he could maybe put in some hot laps to try and get by these guys, to run them down?
Well, Darling does have some clean track in front of him right now. Sorry, Roca, what about Darling?
Darling is also relatively clear. Next up is going to be Matthew Overton, who is in the Porsche class. Now, that will depend on where he catches Matthew. As we've seen, these Porsches very slow in some of the fast corners, not having the downforce. And if you catch him at the wrong spot, not only is it dangerous, but it can slow you up. Oh, battle for 6 here. This is between Hudson and Lundy. As Hudson works his way towards the bus stop, he is going to manage to overtake Lundy. The way he caught him on the backstretch, does Lundy have damage?
I'll give a shout out to these guys. The top 5 battle in GTE has been interesting so race one that there are a lot of drivers running in the top 10 in GTE, such as Hudson and Lundy, who have had good days that we haven't really gave a good amount of camera time to.
Well, they're getting it now because Lundy hasn't given up. He's holding on to the tail of Hudson as they come back down the hill. Let's see if he can get the run off of Eau Rouge. If the draft can help him close in and get that spot back, he's using every inch of track. He does get a good run. He is within the draft, reeling in Chris Hudson. Hudson stays to the right, tries to defend. Lundy to the outside. He's going to have to outbrake him and be brave, and he is very brave. But can he get the car wound up? No, he doesn't. He cuts across the grass. Is he going to get a cut course penalty? And he slows it up. He's going to give it back. Oh, but he's staying side by side. He's coming back at him down through Rivage. The track is going to switch back if he can just keep his nose in here through No Name, but he's not brave enough as the apex goes to Hudson. Sounds like we've also got an intense battle going on in the GTC class.
Yeah, we do, and it's Anthony James trying to hold off Scott Johnson. It's been a little bit of back and forth here for the past 2 laps, Joe, and they are slugging it out. And I got to be honest with you, it's Johnson using up all of the track, and it's been fun to watch. It really has. Again, James getting the better of it right now, but Johnson just not giving him anything as they head down here into the chicane. It could get really, really fun.
As we ride on the dash of Johnson, James goes defensive, compromises his line. Johnson closes significantly, coming off the corner, tries to get the run, but can't quite make it. They're coming down to La Source. He could send it in deep if he wanted to, but he's a little bit far back. Once again, a defensive line from James, turning in a little bit too early. Could we see an over-under as Johnson tries to get the power down? Closes in once again. The track weaves back and forth, making it difficult to tell what line to take. He lifts, though, as they enter into Eau Rouge.
Not too far behind them, you saw a car that looked like Paul Darling's quite off the pace. That was Samuel Scott. He had to spin at Eau Rouge 2 laps ago, but go away with it as this battle is back on.
Yeah, and boy, almost off the track there. Scott Johnson was teetering on the grass and the pavement. And now they got a little company. Paul Darling running up on him here, just behind him, guys.
Yeah, this isn't what Darling needs.
This is going to complicate this battle for the podium between these GTC cars. And Darling also has Lawson behind him within the same class, but a lap down. Oh, and there was almost contact between Johnson and Samuel Scott. He was trying to sneak his way through.
So Darling finally gets through. Hopefully for him, he didn't lose much time to Roca, who is in the pits now.
And Jeffrey Ooms has been catching Paul Darling. With this traffic holding him up, that gap is now down to 2 seconds as Ooms now tries to navigate his way through. So with Roca still hitting La Source in the pit lane, he's got a long way to go. Teo Bubicic is going to go by. He has yet to take his second stop.
Yeah. As well as Tanaka.
Darling is now coming up to Blanchimont. I think he's going to get him, Sam. He is... Roca's still not to his stall.
Well, it's going to be close no matter what. Roca doesn't have to take a lot of fuel, and those two have been running so close all race long on a similar strategy. I can't imagine that the gap between them would be too large. Roca's at a stop.
Darling now heading towards La Source. He's got about a second and a half between himself and Ooms. Could we see a three-way fight for the win here?
Roca's still stationary. He really doesn't need to be stationary for this long.
Now he goes.
Yeah.
And I'd say that is clear advantage to Darling, who's got the momentum up the hill. Ooms still chasing him. Roca out behind Ooms. So your order after pit stops for these leaders is Darling, Ooms, Roca.
Yeah, I think Roca took too much fuel. I don't know though, if he took tyres, wouldn't he be a lot further back?
Yeah, I would think. Sean, what's the bogey for tyres if you take them? Do you remember?
It was just about 1:45.
To change all 4 tires?
Well, okay, I'm sorry. Total time pit lane for
that
our
was
4
at
tires and
yeah.
fuel. Yeah.
So a slightly different pit lane, actually amazing longer here than it is at Le Mans. So there we see our GTE leader, who will hand it over soon as Teo has to make his final stop.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? About 25 seconds, actually, for the 4 tires.
There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you, Sam. I don't. It's definitely not down to tires.
Tanaka, one of the top 5 GTEs in. Teo stayed out, although he's been shown as off course. Where is Teo?
Well, Teo had a bit of an off, I believe, coming through the bus stop. He just outbraked himself and continued on with no drama.
Okay, the GTC leader is in, guys, for his final pit stop. Jake Daggett. Dargett is in. Paul Hamilton. Don't know what he's going to do yet here.
Hamilton stays out.
He does. You know, and Dexter Castro's just in front of him, just jumping over classes. Castro continues to stay out, holding on to his lead in the GT3s.
You know, I'm not sure what we're going to do if Bill has to call this series, because for Paul, every spot is the Hamilton spot.
Ah.
Had to slip it in there.
Bill's probably watching and just fell out of his chair, Joe.
Here we see our driver who has inherited the lead in the GTCs, Paul Hamilton. Indiana driver having a pretty decent race there in the slowest of the classes. 23 minutes left to go, but he has yet to take his second stop.
See, I'm going to assume that Dexter knew that these guys were on their way. Little surprised he didn't take that pit stop. He's going to have to tangle with everybody coming through here. And boy, when, trying to make that pit stop as short as possible to make up time is your goal. You don't want to lose too much time to these guys as they come through. Is right now Paul Darling reeling in Dexter Castro here in Blanchimont. I'm sorry, in Pujan. I know my turns.
And this is going to hold up Paul Darling just a little bit, coming through the bottom of Pujan. And now Dexter's going to have to lift. This gives a little bit of ground gained for Jeffrey Ooms, who has cut it down to a second and a half once more. That GTE car that you keep getting glances of at the back of him is Jarrett Lawson. He is a lap down from our leaders.
Bubicic stays out another lap, so there will be less than 20 minutes left to go. Very little fuel he'll have to put in his Ferrari.
Running the going long strategy, it seems, for Teo. As we see now, Ooms sneaks by, catches him at a good spot, gets by Dexter Castro before Blanchimont. That allows him to cut it down now to 1.2 between himself and Darling.
Oh, boy.
Hamilton pitting now.
Boy, Lawson really shot it into the chicane. Cooks it coming in, and Castro right on his bumper coming across the start-finish line. A little bit of bump draft in there as they get through La Source.
Hamilton into the pits.
That is I believe, our last of our GTCs to take their final stop.
It is, yes.
Except for, I believe, I'm seeing Ralph Kimmerer on one.
Yeah, Matthew Overton has yet to come in also, actually.
Overton's coming up to the bus stop right now. Is he going to come in? No, he stays out for another lap. Ooms is closing. It is now down to less than a second between himself and Darling. Once Teo pits, this is the battle for the lead in our GTE class.
Of course, the good thing Darling's got going for him is he's proven he can follow a car all race long with Roca, and actually Ooms made a mistake there that allows Darling to have a bit of space, but I agree with you, Joe. Ooms has been closing, and the battle for the overall lead and the overall win will be on not too long.
And that slide coming out of No Name, Sam, to me says that Ooms is pushing. He is trying for this lead. He knows what's at stake.
I almost wonder if No Name Corner is saying, hey, if you gave me a name, I would actually be nicer to you drivers. Meanwhile, Bubicic stays out one more lap.
Ferrari driver taking it as long as he can.
Okay, so Only one car hasn't taken a pit stop in the GTC class. That's Matthew Overton. It's not going to matter. This battle is up to Anthony James and Scott Johnson. These two were still locked up even after their pit stop almost 5 laps ago. They are still together on track. James and Johnson got a good battle going. Johnson trying to make it work now, Joe.
And this is for the win, correct? This in the GTC
Yes,
class.
absolutely.
Here goes Johnson looking to the inside into Stavolo. James stayed to the middle of the track, tries to fend him off. If he would have ran into him, he would have shut the door a little too late. Coming off the corner, they now have a gap between them as they head towards Blanchemont, but tense moments between our top two and the Porsches.
There's plenty of overtaking opportunities around here, but there's also plenty of places where it could go wrong. These drivers still have 18 laps left to solve it between them.
Miguel Alcrudo going to break this up in a moment. Oh! Almost contact between Johnson and James through the bus stop as he closed in and had more speed through the apex. But here comes Alcrudo. He's going to get one of them, but he's going to get boxed in because James is holding to the inside as Johnson now has to wait for him to slide through at the apex. That costs him a bit. Alcrudo now going to try and go through down the hill towards Eau Rouge. Is James going to have to lift? No, it looks like he's going to get lucky. Up and over the hill of Radillon. Dino Topic is going to scream on by down the Kimmel Straight.
In not too long, the battle for the overall lead will be on. Kazooms has caught Darlin.
As we continue to watch this fight here between our two GTC leaders, it gets broken up by Topic, splits them for just a moment, and they hit Rivage.
Yeah, another GTE update. Our race leader, Teo Bubitrich, has finally came into the pits. Now, I'm pretty sure he'll lose the lead. He'll lose several positions, but who will have the lead? Will it be Paul Darlin or Jeffrey Humes?
Right now, it's going to be... Oh, as
Here
we
we
got to
go.
fight for that lead, and the Porsches going to the inside. Johnson finally sneaks through, heading through Puhan with an advantageous move. Brave stuff going too wide through that fast double apexer.
Oh,
Doesn't.
James having trouble back there getting through the turns, Joe. All over the place.
Not giving up, still holding on to the back of Johnson. Meanwhile, has Roca had some drama? Where is Roca, actually? I'm not seeing him on my timing and scoring. There he is. He is well down the order. He's in the pits right now.
That's not good news for Roca.
He had a problem coming through Stavolo. We need to get this on replay. Should have been about 50 to 60 seconds ago.
He was destined for a third place finish, but now Teo Bubitrich will probably get that because he's emerged from the pits after a short stop in third place. Here's a replay of Roca.
All right, we've got it. This is coming at us. The first apex is Stavolo. Here he's going through Fannies currently. And then he just gets a little greedy here. Catches the outside on the AstroTurf, and that Ford doesn't like it. And slam into the barriers.
Castro's in, guys. He's just come down off the jack. He's coming out. I'm sorry, he didn't go up on the jack. He's coming out. He got fuel only for Castro. Still in the lead.
Well in the lead over Lidke, actually.
Yep. Not going to matter. Castro makes quick work of that stop there, Joe.
Going to be a dominant win for the 49 Motorsports driver if he doesn't make mistakes. Now, interestingly, for our... Oh, and did Miguel Alcrudo have a problem as well, or is this his scheduled stop? He is in the pits. No, this is a scheduled stop for him, excuse me. Interesting thing about our battle for the lead, now that Paul Darlin has finally moved back into P1. We've watched him follow someone, Sam, but we haven't seen him defend quite as much.
Which is why I'm wondering if it won't matter a whole lot if Ooms gets by him, because he'll be like, oh yeah, I'm used to running in second this race, but right now he's doing a good job holding on in front. And there you see the gap to Teo Bubicic. They have 22 seconds over him. Looks like he'll get a third place finish because he's got a nice gap over the 2 cars behind him who haven't pit yet.
Victor Tanaka seems to have had a problem. I can't see what happened on my screen because he lost connection, but he spun or something into Stavolo. Let's see if it shows up on our director's screen. Oh. As he did the same thing in his director's, it happened on mine.
Could have had computer trouble. It's Darling. It's Ooms looking around the outside of Darling. They're challenging through Les Combes. He's going to try and make the outside work. Ooms in the Golf livery. Darling runs him to the edge of the circuit over the curb. Ooms still alongside as they get to the bottom of a hill here through turn number 8, holding his ground on the outside. Darling not willing to give up his lead, but now Ooms has the inside line for No Name. Buhon will be in it, and they touch. Darling goes off. Ooms holds the top spot. It's a drag race down to Buhon. Once again, Ooms will have the desired inside line, but Darling not willing to give it up. He's going to cross over, bumps him from behind. That gives Ooms a little boost into the lead.
Darling thought maybe he could pull an over-under through Puhan. He weaves the car to make sure the handling is fine. He touched the corner of that machine. Always a big no-no in these GT cars, not wanting to damage the suspension. Side by side for 5 corners straight between Darling and Ooms finally gets it done, but not without a bit of roughhousing between these 2 giants.
Well, that thing, as you mentioned, Joe, that final tap that Darling made on Ooms could have hurt him in more ways than one. One, it could have dented the front of his car, but 2, I think it also bumped, it almost gave like a bump shaft effect to Ooms going down that straightaway there, and that allowed him to break away from Darling a little bit.
You're going to see it on the replay. It was almost a clever move there, Sam. He had the speed to pull it off, but I guess that Ooms was savvy enough to just deny him that car width.
Oh, guys, boy, the GTEs were battling. It was Julie Redmond, Trampus, Koltoff, and Chris Hudson all battling for 6th position. Hudson, the big loser there, just slides off the track amongst the fight. I know we were catching that replay there, but boy.
Yeah, we're back live and see Hudson well behind. You can see the gap that he lost from that off through Lacombe. Redmond and Koltoff, I believe teammates actually, working their way. They're still in a bit of a fight, but the gap is extended between them as Koltoff about half a second behind Redmond.
Darling isn't giving up.
About the same gap to the leader, Paul Darling, on Jeffrey Ooms. There are now 11 minutes left on the clock. He can't waste too much time in trying to get this spot back.
Nothing to pick up on a replay here, but in the GTC class, Matthew Overton, who was pushing it just as far as he could, was battling for position, ran out of fuel. Guys had to tow back. He's in for a while.
Disappointment for Overton in that GTC class.
Meanwhile, with the troubles that we've seen recently for Tanaka and for Humberto Roca in GTE, that has allowed Dino Topic to move back up into 4th.
What a roller coaster ride it has been for the Canadian. Problems have not prevented him from working his way back up here into the top 5 and now just outside the podium, but it's going to have to take huge dramas to get him onto that top 3 as Teo Bubicic is still 28 seconds up the road.
Well, the top 2 could help him out.
This is true. We have to keep an eye on that battle as it still has not separated. Darling loses a few tenths there through the bus stop, but he regains them.
Well, La Source is the key turn here. I mean, he can be this far back if he gets a better exit than Ooms out of this right-hander here. And you can see he closes up on the brakes, but does that hurt him on the exit? He's within striking range. Now, the problem being behind someone in Eau Rouge here, Joe, is if the front end of your car washes out because of the slipstream, you can go over the curb there, and if you go over it too far, iRacing will give you a slowdown.
They look about dead even up the hill to Lecum. Darlene only able to close it in to about 4/10. The draft probably helping him a little bit.
Hey, did anybody notice there's less than 10 minutes left, guys?
It's been a
Darlen's
100-minute
noticed.
race. Yeah, I'm sure. It's been a 100-minute race here in round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge, and we've got some traffic here for our leaders. This could interrupt things. This is Overton and Collier, 2 different classes.
Overton's seen his fair share of trouble today, and I don't think Darlin's going to get by every time.
Slides
Darlin saves it.
Part of Kuon, but once again taps the nose of that car in almost the same place. And this has separated them by 3.5 seconds now as Darlene's got a hill to climb. Watching it from above, I don't blame him for trying, Sam.
It was a bit ambitious.
He
I
knew
can't
he
blame
had.
Overton for that one. The only thing I guess I can blame it on Overton for is if leaders got on the radio and said, hey, we're battling for the overall win here. And if they didn't, Overton should have been able to see that in his F3, but he's got his own race too.
He does, but Overton, remember, just came out after his third stop, unscheduled, so he was really not fighting with anyone. I could see it from both sides. He does want to run his own race, but it's sad to see that this has broken up what was a thrilling fight for first. Ooms now 4.5 seconds up, having extended it. Meanwhile, look at this battle for 6 here in GTE, as these 3 have come back together. Again, this is our drivers of Redmond, Hudson, and Kolthoff, all fighting for 6th position.
Yeah, considering Redmond, she started 14th and Hudson started 17th. We haven't seen Redmond for a while, as we mentioned at the top of the show. This is a bit of a good comeback race for her on the GSRC, but a challenge for 7th. Hudson did not get a good run out of Pujon, and Kolthoff, another driver that we've seen mix it up a couple of times today. He almost made the look, but didn't.
Well, we've seen, Sean, that with these endurance races, it's not where you qualify, it is your race pace that matters a lot. And I think we're seeing Julie Redmond prove that very much. Hudson, though, under threat from Kolthoff.
Yeah, endurance racing is about consistency, Joe, and durability, obviously. But, focus, consistency, you put those pieces together, most anybody can run a fast 1 or 2 laps. But when you got to do this over 100 minutes, you said it right there, race pace, so very, very important.
Hudson way off the apex coming into the bus stop, but unfortunately Kolthoff was not able to take advantage. Tried to look around the outside to get himself a run. Does hold him close twice now in 2 corners. Julie Redmond has been smoking the brakes ahead of them. She could be caught by Hudson if she keeps making mistakes. Up through Eau Rouge, over the top of Radillion. Oh, and a great run by Hudson. Look at this. Redmond had to get out of the gas going over the hill. She stays defensive. Hudson could get by if he's brave on the brakes. What can the 4GT do? Coming down to Lecum, they're about dead even. They're going to go side by side through it. Hudson gets the switchback as it keeps him the inside, but Redmond clashes with her own teammate as Kolthoff tries to take advantage and unfortunately commits the ultimate sin.
Yeah, Redmond took too much curb, I think, in the first part of the turn there, and I almost wonder if she actually came across to Kolthoff there. It was amazing, they both saved it.
We're going to see on the replay, he got squeezed a little bit, did not expect her to be there. Might be a little bit awkward in the post-race briefing for their team. Redmond is able to continue, but has lost 2 spots in 1 corner, essentially.
Yeah, well, like you say, a lot of that started, and she's still smoking the brakes there, going through Eau Rouge. I mean, when it comes to these GT cars, that is a proper turn still, F1 cars can do it flat out, these cars definitely cannot. And, well, if you do it ideally on the qualifying setup, maybe you can, but Redmond, unfortunately, it didn't go well for her that time around, and she paid the price.
A little bit of an update for Miguel Alcrudo fans. Had his problems very early on. He's still on the lead lap, and he is fighting for a top 10 now as he has run down Jason Lundy.
Talking about laps, Jeffrey Ooms is coming through Stavolo with 4 minutes 10 seconds left to go. So when he crosses the line, I think we'll have 2 laps left to go.
Oh, and Alcrudo closed on Lundy, something fierce into the bus stop. I think this pass is going to be soon. You can see just how much the gap has run down since we ducked away a few seconds ago. He peeks out into La Source, decides to play patient, sets himself up for the run off the hairpin. And as they climb down the hill, they are going to have some traffic. Andrew Horsley is up ahead of them. Through Eau Rouge. Both these cars in 4 GTs. Here comes Alcrudo with a great run off the top of the hill. Uses the draft. Lundy coming across. Does not defend. Gives him the inside line. But he's got a little bit of a pick. Look as he goes around the outside. Tries to outbrake him as he comes back to it. He manages to get to the apex. And look at that. Shades of Spa 98, Sam.
Yeah. Ricardo's onto there. Sitting in the center of the track.
Oh, and they get a little bit of traffic with a Porsche coming down into Ravage. It's not over yet. Now they have to get by Horsley, who's not pulling over. Is this going to give an opportunity for Lundy to give it back? He's got the run out of the corner. He looks to the inside. Alcrudo defends. Doesn't want to let him get his nose into Pujon. This could compromise him, though. He has to lift a little bit. Is he going to be able to get back to the apex? He gives him the room, but coming off, the momentum goes to Alcrudo.
Guys, Anthony James did not have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. He just came into the pit, Sean.
Yeah, he did. And, boy, another off. Whoa, Jay Dargert. Yeah.
Did he just give up the lead? Is that Paul Hamilton now going through? As the lead is switched hands to Dargert, Paul Hamilton, with a bit of luck, overtakes him. Look at this. Spin on his own as the rear comes around into Lacombe, and just in his mirrors, he's going to see his lead slip away.
So let's get back to that battle you were watching. Now, Crudo just made a pass on Horsley through Blanchimont. That's Verstappenish. So, seen a lot of F1-esque racing this lap.
Well, it was that contact there between himself and who was that?
I think it was close. I don't think they made contact. Meanwhile, just a couple of turns behind them, Jeffrey Ooms is coming around. He'll be taking the white flag.
I think that was Horsley that may have is a lapped car, as Kolthoff has a bit of a spin.
That's full position, yep. So he loses a few of those.
And white flag is out for Jeffrey Ooms as he crosses the start-finish line. 6 seconds between himself and Paul Darling.
Man, such a tight battle going on from like 6th to 11th in GTE with just a couple minutes left. You fought for 2 hours almost, trying to get the best finish you can, and you just lose 5 spots like that with a mistake.
Castro's got a nice cushion here in the GT3s, but he just had a little bit of trouble back in Malmedy. Struggling just a bit through that section there. Got really, really slowed down. Again, not really under threat. I mean, Drew Lidke's still a full 47 seconds back, but Castro got to be very careful here in the closing laps.
Julie Redmond is trying to hold off Miguel Alcrudo as he's now rocked up to the back of her Ferrari wing.
And Kolthoff had another incident and has had to go into the pits. So the driver running in the top 10 in the closing stages will finish this race in pit road outside of the top 10.
Disappointment after a good run. A number of drivers as things get chaotic with the timing and scoring just going wild for us here as 4 seconds tick down now to the checkered flag. White flag is out. Next time by, our leader will finish the race. Ooms coming up to Fanyes now. The battle not over between Julie Redmond and Miguel Al Crudo as Crudo got a run, and Redmond gives it up into Blanchimont as Redmond slides into the barrier, and that is her race over. Oh, white flag was waving.
And Samuel Scott, who had crashed in Eau Rouge about half an hour ago, he's also wrecked. Boy, a lot of people are waiting for Jeffrey Ooms to cross the finish line here before they all get torn up.
Well, if any fans left before the end, they missed it all. But Jeffrey Ooms didn't miss a beat. He may have made a mistake at the start and lost his pole, but he's going to come home in P1 as he comes out of the bus stop and takes the checkered flag here at Spa.
Scott Johnson going to come across just behind here. In the GTC class, Scott Johnson going to be your big winner, Joe.
Wonderful win by the Porsche driver. A surprise win, if anything, for him. As Dexter Castro still has essentially a whole lap to do. He's only going through Lacombe.
Yeah, he got across before everybody, and he's going to ride this thing out.
And Lidke's already finished, so that actually seals it for Dexter Castro, with his only competitor a lap behind the leader now that they've finished. This means that Dexter Castro is your winner, even though he hasn't crossed the line yet, in the GT3 class. What a run from Dexter. Looked questionable whether or not he could take the pole after he was trying to fight Dougie Beard for it. At the last second, managed to get a good time in, and then from the drop of the green, just didn't look fazed by anyone.
Yeah, Lidke and Collier tried to out-strategize him, but it didn't quite work for him. They'll settle for the second and third spots, but all Dex has got to do is get around here. Wrap this thing up.
Oh, did you ever think that anybody could out-strategize Dexter?
Dexter doesn't even have to get around here. He could tear his car up if he wanted, cross the line on 3 wheels. Still win.
He's gonna take it home clean. That car looks pretty spotless to me. The BMW doesn't always get a whole lot of love here on iRacing anymore, being one of the older GT3 cars, but today it's gonna get some love from Dexter Castro. As he comes through the bus stop, hits his marks nice and clean in the midst of traffic. Their GT3 winner is going to be Dexter Castro. And with that, we are going to take it to break. Don't go away, because on the screen we're going to have all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel, and after that we're going to have the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. You just watched round 2 of the Ricmotech.com challenge here in the Champion Motorsports series. And in the end, Jeffrey Ooms fooled us all with a little bit of quick strategy to get himself back into the lead and take the win. He beat Paul Darling by nearly 6 seconds when they crossed the line. Teo Bubicic, we didn't think he would get back up into the podium, but everybody else's misfortune definitely helped him get into that third spot. Dino Topic just outside of there as well, having to come back from some spins, and he came home in 4th. Victor Tanaka rounding out our top 5. Chris Hudson, he finished in 6th today with Miguel Alcrudo in 7th, with a recovery drive to talk about for quite a while, and Jason Lundy just back there in 8th. Andrew Horsley comes home in 9th. Julie Redmond, disappointment with that race incident to come home in 10th. Peter Hebron finishes 11th, 1 lap down. Ricardo Perez behind him in 12th. And then Samuel Scott in 13th, which leads us, Sam, to our GT3s.
Yeah, Dexter Castro took a win in GT3. Now right behind him you see a GTE driver involved in an incident late on in the going, Trampas Koltov. So second in GT3 would be Drew Lidke, ahead of Tim Collier and Kenneth Rodriguez. And Jarrett Lawson, fifth, is another GT E-car. 5th and 6th in GT3 are much farther down the order. Those are David Slee and Dougie Beard. Sean.
Okay, in our GTC class, the Porsche 991's Scott Johnson, your big winner today. And Bart Workman, the guy ran out of fuel. Still manages to finish 2nd, so great day for Workman there. Jay Dargett hangs in there to pull off a podium finish. He had his trouble as well, but finishes 3rd. Paul Hamilton, not in the Hamilton position, but in 4th place today. So we'll give 4th to Hamilton. Anthony James, 5th place for him. Ralph Kemmer, Anthony James, 5th place for him. Ralph Kemmer going to finish 6th. Matthew Overton, boy, what a tough day for him. Runs out of fuel there at the end, and he's going to finish 7th in class. And then you've got Mark Ruggiero, the Florida driver. All he could manage was 8th place, but does finish the race. All of your GTC class does finish this race. None of them had to go behind the wall today.
Well, so much for that being the AM class. They are very hardy soldiers out there making sure they get to the checkered flag. And with that, let's talk to our winner in the GTE class. The overall winner, Sam, is talking to Jeffrey Ooms.
Yes, Jeff, first off, congratulations on your win today.
Hi there, thank you.
Now, did you think it had all fallen apart on lap 1 when you had that off, or did you know you could get back up there?
I knew that I had the speed, and I think I kind of showed that once I did fix my car after the first stop there, but I didn't know if I could, make it right up front. I was just kind of seeing how the cards felt, but I was just going 100% the whole time because that's what I had to do.
What was your strategy there? Because we noticed you had a very short first stop.
Basically just short fill on the first stop with no tires, and then it would have been, up in the air to take tires on the second stop. But because I had so much damage, I was running a lot slower, and it actually saved my tires for me. So it ended up not taking tires on the second stop either.
Now, in the late going, you had that side-by-side battle with Paul Darling that went on for about 5 turns. That was quite incredible. Unfortunately, a bit of lap traffic broke that up.
Yeah, that was quite the battle there. I did not expect that to last that long, but maybe a couple corners. But yeah, that was a really good battle. So.
All right, so we're 2 rounds into the season. My guess is you weren't you were 5th in the points following the first race. Obviously, this win is going to move you up. I've got to imagine even this early in the season, you're thinking about the championship.
Yeah, this is my first season with Puffin as well. It's actually my first week too, so it's a pretty good start to the team, and the team had a really good finish this race as well. So I'd like to thank the team as well. But we'll see what the rest of the season brings here. Hopefully some good fortune falls our way too, and see how she goes.
Yeah, well, thanks for putting on an incredible show tonight, Jeff, especially with that battle with Paul. We look forward to more of the same throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you. Looking forward to have you guys broadcast our races as well. You do a good job.
So that was our overall winner today, Joe, the number 97 of Trofeums.
We also have our winner in the GT3 class, who was the only car to finish on his lap in his class, which is Dexter Castro. He is going to talk to Sean about what looked like, from our perspective, a pretty dominant win.
Yeah, down here in Victory Lane with Dexter Castro. Dex, I don't want to say it was effortless. This track has a lot of challenges, but boy, you laid down the hammer today and really kind of never looked back. A little bit different strategy between yourself and Lidke and Collier, and that works out for you.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting race for a while. Between the first and second pit stop, I was running the whole time, not knowing that they had taken tires, which kind of sealed it. If they had stopped earlier and taken tires, they might have been able to make up some time, but they stopped a little too late for the tires to really make a difference. So it sort of was, a pleasant surprise to have the nice gap when I came back out. But yeah, you know me, I'm never taking tires in these 100-minute races, at least not by design.
Right, gotcha. And now I guess the biggest challenge was really the GTE traffic coming through, and even having to get around the Porsches at times. There were some pretty hairy moments out there during those 100 minutes, weren't there?
Yeah, not so much with the GTEs. There were a few times where I let them get next to me, and I expected them to be a little more aggressive into the corner, so I didn't leave quite as much space as I could have, because I thought they'd clear me. But then they were being cautious, so they wound up offline, which I certainly didn't mean that. But for the most part, the GTEs were pretty smooth, and the Porsches too. I mean, I just had to be patient with them. There were a few times where I came up on one and I didn't have any idea what they were doing, or what they were planning on doing. Just because you got to communicate with your car. If you're going to go offline, you got to do it early. And just little things like that. But we'll get better at it as the season goes on.
Well, it's only the second race. There's still plenty left to go, but Dexter, you got yourself off to a great start. A tough break for your teammate there, Dougie. That connection issue there at the beginning. Hate to see, early points be taken away here for the team early in the season, but hopefully he can get that straightened out.
I was around the time that happened, I suddenly noticed he wasn't behind me anymore. I went to ask him in TeamSpeak what happened, and then I heard user has timed out, and that was a pretty good clue. But yeah, unfortunate for him. I think he actually might have at least been able to hang with me. He was planning on taking tires and seeing how it played out, but he was going to take it at the midpoint instead of offset. So it would have been interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah, he had great pace in practice. Tough break for him. Hey, congratulations, Dexter. Thanks for taking a moment to come and talk with us. But great day for 49 Motorsports, and congratulations, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, see you around. Well, I'm sure I'll see you guys on Friday and Saturday. I've got a full week of GSRC racing on my table.
All right, and that's great. Always love seeing Dexter here on the Global Sim Racing channel. And Joe, I think it's time to talk to our GTC winner, Scotty Johnson.
Indeed, Scott Johnson took home the win in the GTC class today, and that was decisive, at least in getting his championship turned around, because Bart Workman finished behind you, Scott. That's got to feel good.
Yeah, Bart's a teammate, so we finished 1-2 last week and 1-2 this week, so keep her going if we can.
It puts you on even footing. Are you going to share the trophy if there's an even amount of races in this championship?
We may have to split her in half, yeah.
All right. Now, talk about that battle that you were having out on track. That just looked phenomenal from our view. You guys going side by side for quite a few corners. This car isn't a high downforce car. That has to be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, she gets a little squirrely at times, and Anthony and I were running there. I took tires. I don't think he did. So I thought I'd have some more pace on him once I got by him, but unfortunately when he came out of the pits, he was right in front of me, and he put up a great battle. I had a really hard time getting around him, and then when I thought I had a run, I'd have faster cars coming up on us, and it just was an interesting little mix.
Now, it was noted before the race, I know one of the drivers was giving a heads up to everybody that the Porsche is really the only one that behaves significantly differently from the other two cars, mostly in the fast corners. What was your take on how traffic was and how the cars dealt with your class during these 100 minutes?
I think it's getting better. I think the racing was better this week than it was last week with that. There's still a couple guys that I felt anyway, we went side by side through the high-speed turns, and like we're going to get blown off track. We were lucky we didn't have an incident counter. I think a lot of people would have been DQ'd.
And we saw that after the race. I'm not going to read them out on air, but we saw some pretty impressive numbers post-race when we looked at the incidents. So I understand what you're saying. Again, congratulations, great win, and best to you and your teammate for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Joe.
That's Scott Johnson, winner today here in the GTC class. We have one more interview to go. That is Victor Tanaka from the GTEs. Sam is going to talk to him about his race.
Yeah, Victor, you came home with a top 5 finish, but it wasn't without a bit of drama.
Yeah, that's for sure. I didn't have a too exciting of a race, but yeah, I did have some dramas there in the beginning, and then one at the end.
Well, we saw you come down for a pit stop early on with some damage to the front end of your Ferrari. Had that incident kind of thrown off your strategy?
Yeah, that was from the incident in lap 1 when I got tangled with Miguel there. The car was still fast, so that's why I didn't pay right away. But I did have in mind to pay early because I was a little slower on the straight. So that's why I pitted early there, just because it was on the pit window and it was as early as I could go to get the fast repair.
And then again, you hit a little bit of trouble at the end of a race. You caught right back up with Dino Topic. How many more laps did you need to try and get fourth from him?
Oh, just half a lap would have been enough. But yeah, my screen's blanked out for some reason, so that's why that incident happened there at the end. I spun the car.
Yeah, that's definitely a pity to hear. However, it's a solid points race. What races are you looking forward to in the remainder of this championship?
Yeah, I missed the first race and I just made this one. Didn't have any practice, so I didn't have any expectations, and to be honest, I'm very happy with top 5. I just wish I had a little more fun than I did, a little bit more battling on the track, but it was still fun. But yeah, I'm actually not too sure what tracks are next, but I'm pretty sure gonna have fun no matter what.
All right, well, we look forward to seeing you back out on track, Victor, and hopefully you'll have more fun as the season goes on.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks for the broadcast, guys.
With that, we're going to close up for today after quite a thrilling race, especially there at the end. Something we kind of expected from CMS. They've always had a bit of a habit of giving us lots of thrills towards the ends of these runs. But before we go, we want to thank Ricmotech for sponsoring this series, and of course to Miguel Alcrudo for organizing the league. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Sean, Sam, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel or Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. The next race, it's going to be at Monza. That'll be interesting with the chicanes in these different cars. It'll be Wednesday, August 9th at 8:50 p.m. Eastern. However, that is not the next race in the series. That will be round 4 that we will be covering next there at Monza. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.